So as you guys might know, tonight we do have a closed session item, which does mean we do that fun thing where we vacate the room and we pull you back in. We're going to go ahead and call the regular meeting for July 26, 2023 to order. We will be starting with closed session. So because of that, we are going to be taking public comment after roll call. So I'll go ahead and pass it to our clerk for a roll call.
Councilmember Lohman.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Douglas.
Present.
Councilmember Hilberg.
Here.
Councilmember McCauley.
Here.
And Mayor Burris.
Here. All right. With that, we are accepting public comment on closed session items right now. So if you have a public comment either on item 1D, which is the public employment pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, and this is for the city manager's position, or if you have a public comment related to our litigation with the Snapdragon provisions, you may make a comment on either of those items at this time. Any other items would need to happen during the regular public comment section of the meeting. Anything online?
Nothing online.
All right. Well, with that being said, we will go ahead and move into closed session and we will vacate the room for the time being. Thank you very much. And call the open session to order. Thank you all for rejoining. As far as closed session, there's no reportable action tonight. We are still currently in negotiations with Snapdragon provisions and an update will follow shortly. With that, we can go ahead and move directly into the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, can we go ahead and get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Lohman.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Douglas.
Present.
Councilmember Hilberg.
Here.
Councilmember McCauley.
Here.
And Mayor Burris.
Here. All right, with that, we'll move to item 2E, approval of the agenda order. Do we have any changes to the agenda order this evening? All right, seeing none, can I get a motion to approve the agenda order?
Move to approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Those abstained? Seeing none, motion passes. All right, we're moving to the consent calendar. Matters on the consent calendar are considered routine and non-controversial in nature, will be moved on in one blanket motion. Anybody may pull an item from consent, whether you are from the council or the public. If anybody would like to pull an item from the consent calendar, now is the time. Would anybody like to pull an item from consent? All right, seeing none, I would like to pull item 3F from consent. And if there are no other items, I'll entertain a motion to approve the remainder of the consent calendar.
Move to approve with the exception of 3F.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed, those abstain, seeing none. Consent calendar passes. We move to item 3F and I recuse myself from this item due to my employment with PG&E. So the gavel goes to Kim Douglas. If you want to come over here, do you want the gavel? There you go.
This will take about an hour, so take. Okay.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, would you like a staff report? Or
I was
would you-
going to say, you want to give a
Sure,
staff report?
happy to. So item 3F is a recommendation by staff to authorize the city manager to execute an agreement with Greenleaf Desert View Power LLC on the sale of certain biomass electricity compliance attributes to satisfy the city's procurement for recycled organic products by local jurisdictions requirements under SB 1383. That's a mouthful. But to put it simply, and we have someone here from Pioneer Energy too to answer any questions you might have. Under SB 1383, the city has to purchase a very small amount of biomass products. And in the case of Colfax, it would be essentially mulch And the state is requiring all cities and counties within California to purchase this biomass, in a sense, to create a market for biomass products. And, that works well for some agencies, a market for biomass products. And, that works well for some agencies.
You ever see the TV show back here?
Yes.
Can remind
Yes.
me of that.
That works well for some jurisdictions, but other jurisdictions, it does not work well. But in the end, we have to buy that amount. And so, but for Colfax to buy mulch presents a increase in fire hazard in our community. So we really don't need any more mulch. So we haven't, and some of our other jurisdictions, for other reasons in Placer County, we're in the same boat as us. And so Pioneer Energy is working with Placer jurisdictions to essentially form an ability to buy energy credits to satisfy those requirements with this entity, Greenleaf Desert View Power LLC, instead of buying that mulch. So we think it's a better, more cost-effective alternative. There's an estimate in the staff report of what, in the attachments of what Colfax would have to buy on an annual basis, but it's roughly over that 3 to 5 year time period, no more than $5,000. So it's not a reasonable request because the state shouldn't be forcing this unfunded mandate on local jurisdictions. But on the other hand, it's probably the most cost-effective way to deal with this particular issue.
Comments? The comments from the public? Can you go into the statement that you just said? No. I need a motion. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve item 3F.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. That didn't happen too often.
All right. Well, with that, now that we've completed the consent calendar, we can move to our agency reports, starting with Placer County Sheriff's Office.
Good evening, Mayor Burris, council members. I'm Sergeant Kevin Griffiths, the station commander assigned here in Colfax. For all of you, since the last meeting, Lieutenant Reniger and I met with Caroline McCulley, as well as Mike Lucan. It was an absolute pleasure to sit down and get a few minutes of their time. So thank you, Mike, Caroline. And yes, Caroline, we know your name and we now know your face. So, and during that conversation with Mike, he brought up the concern with the vehicles not stopping at Rising Sun and Grass Valley. We have started to have our deputies enforce that stop sign, start parking out there and actually trying to make a difference for that and that crosswalk that's just a block away. And we'll continue that. We're lucky. We have Deputy Boyer as one of our deputies here assigned to Colfax. He comes from Irvine Police Department, where he was a motor officer for 5 years and has an extensive amount of traffic background. He's also going to help us with one of the other concerns, and that happens to be that winter parking trouble that we come up with every year when, the CHP with Caltrans help closes down our freeway right here in Colfax and impacts our city greatly. He's going to be looking at some of those streets and coming up with his ideas from the traffic cop side of him to figure out what else we can do to maybe strengthen those laws, paint those curbs, put up those no stopping signs, and really try to help with that before we get into the winter and it's too late. So I assigned that to him today and I told him to take his time and let's make sure we do it right. But having him on board is huge for this city and really giving us some guidance because as you all know, we're deputies. I didn't go to the Highway Patrol Academy because I wanted to be out here impacting lives in a different way into the middle of that community. So I'm bringing somebody that can help us with that. I know that the meeting is going to be packed today. There's a lot going on. So with that, I'd like to close and just ask, is there any questions that I can answer of anything else unrelated to the rest of the meeting tonight?
Anything from council? Anything from the public? All right,
Did you find our security?
I'm going to get that security camera back to you as quickly as I possibly can.
thank you.
Thank you.
CHP, you're up.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Officer Jason Lyman. I'm the Public Information Officer for Gold Run CHP. As Sergeant Griffiths said, I know this is going to be a busy meeting today, so I'm not going to get too long-winded here, but I do have a few stats for us. For the month of July so far, we have made 4 DUI arrests. We've handled 21 crashes and have issued 236 citations. I know another one of the issues that a lot of people are having right now is the worrying about the fire with the big rigs coming down the hill, not stopping at the brake check, and also, your brakes getting too hot and catching on fire. We've had a few fires already this month. Our officers are actively trying to enforce the brake check area, which is up near Nyack. There's people up there every day trying to do that, and we're making an concerted effort to try to enforce that and keep them doing what they're supposed to be doing. Is there anybody have any other questions for me?
None from council, any from the public? All right, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Placer County Fire Department, CAL FIRE.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council members, members of the public. My name is Bob Counts, Assistant Chief with CAL FIRE Placer County Fire Department. Fire season continues to have a slow start due to the weather we've had over the winter. And to put it in a little bit of perspective, I have some stats for Northern California. And in 2023, this goes back to January 1st, we've experienced across Northern California 1,322 fires for 1,860 acres. So last year at the same exact data points, same time frame, same area, we had 1,800 fires. So a few more fires, 500 more fires for 13,600 acres. So that just puts in a little bit of perspective. The slow start, the fuels are rapidly drying. We will have more fires here coming up real soon. Last week, we conducted our second unified command training exercise. This side on the east slope of the Sierras for our Truckee and Tahoe Fire and Law agencies. And the reason I bring that up is a lot of our west side resources went over there to help teach and be part of the drill. And as they were returning home, 2 of our technical rescue team members were just coming through Colfax when a medical rescue, swiftwater rescue call was happening at Mineral Bar just down the road. Those 2 resources dispatched, they were on scene within 7 minutes, which is phenomenal to get to Mineral Bar. One of those technical rescue team members happened to also be a certified drone operator. Within minutes, they had a drone in the air searching the water and another person on the ground searching the water. They did find the victim shortly thereafter. Unfortunately, the victim had fallen out of a raft, struck his head on a rock, and unfortunately, he did not make it. But it was a great response, always coordinated with our partners with Placer County Sheriff's Office. Lastly, our volunteer training over the last month has consisted of our RT-130 drills. And RT-130 is our yearly drills that we put everybody through. It's an industry standard to make sure they're ready to go for fire season. So we've got our volunteers all through that. They're ready to go. And we've also focused on medical emergencies, both on the line and wildland fires and multi-trauma, stuff like that. So lots of medical training and wildland training with the volunteers in the past month. Be happy to answer any questions anybody might have.
Any questions from council? All right, any from the public?
So the Colfax volunteer fire department still exists.
Absolutely.
Yes, it does. Nancy, if you'd like to come up to the podium when you ask the question, just so the public at home can hear it. But Nancy asked, does the Colfax volunteer department still exist?
Yes, and we still have Colfax volunteers under the Placer County Fire Department system. Correct.
So it's no longer called the Colfax Volunteer Fire Department. It is Placer County's.
It's Company 36 of the Placer County Fire Department, and so Station 36 of the volunteer company is Company 36. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move to our nonprofits. I know we have Green Machine here this evening. And really quick, I know that we have many people that would like to speak tonight. And we're going to try to be as organized as possible for the sake of public attention. If you plan to speak tonight, it would be very much appreciated if you wouldn't mind filling out a speaker card before we get to the item that you'd like to speak on. This will help our clerk keep the minutes very organized. It's not required, but we are strongly suggesting and asking that people fill it out to make her life much easier. So with that, if Green Machine would like to come on up and any other nonprofits be on ready to go up next.
Good evening, Council. I'm Andrea Harris. I'm the president of the Colfax Green Machine. I have a majority of my board here. I'm going to have them introduce themselves to you and tell you guys are going to tell them who you represent and what position you guys hold.
I'm April Doherty. I am the secretary and I represent the Colfax High School trap shooting team.
Ty Connors, I'm vice president with the Green Machine, and then I represent the Colfax Skate Park.
Kennedy Hazard, and I am the event coordinator for Green Machine.
Rochelle Romer, I represent the Colfax High Model United Nations Club.
I'm Ron Painter and I represent Nordic.
Lana Mader, member at large, supporting all of the great things that the Green Machine supports.
Rochelle Garcia, I'm here to represent the Colfax High School Chamber Choir.
Okay. So first, we want to thank council for your support in sponsoring the fireworks show. We also want to thank the city workers, Placer County Sheriff's Office, CAL FIRE, Hanson Brothers for letting us shoot off the fireworks at their location, Recology for trash services, Dave Stokel from Performance Marine for the power for our beer booth and our bands, to the 3 businesses who donated, the Colfax Dental Center, Colfax Taco Bell, Railhead Saloon, and also to Karen Cook Hammond, who won the Ruby Award through Seroptimus and chose our organization to donate money to. For the 3rd of July, we had over 50 vendors. We had 2 beer gardens with some great bands. We also had a DJ in the middle of town. We had a kids zone with 5 bouncy houses. We also had Elsa, Anna, Ariel from The Little Mermaid, Spider-Man, and Spider-Gwen make guest appearances. We also had the little dog races ran by our very own board members, Lana, Heidi, and Tammy. The parades were a hit. We had the local 4-H group do the kids parade, as well as the Lions Club who hosted the main parade. We enjoyed working with these 2 groups this year. 2 meetings ago, there was a discussion about the donation for fireworks. There were 2 people who came up and spoke about the Green Machine, so we wanted to set the record straight. When we took over the 3rd of July in May of 2016, we took over from the Chamber of Commerce. At that time, they didn't have the manpower or the funds to continue on with the event. We went over what we could do with the event within little time, we were able to make it happen. In years prior to 2016, before Green Machine took over, Colfax Parks and Rec did burgers and a beer booth to fundraise for their cause. Other organizations did soapbox derby, parades, doxy races, and so forth. Community members were asked to volunteer to help with the event. We decided we would do the beer garden as a fundraiser, add an additional beer garden, a kid zone, and supply our own volunteers under the Green Machine umbrella for those booths to take the stress off the community members to volunteer instead. We have used our whole board and their families to make this happen. We then came to businesses in the community for donations to fund the event. Despite of the negative comments made by certain individuals in the last few years, the businesses and community have been huge supporters and helped us tremendously. However, this year it was not the case. This year's 3rd of July was a huge struggle for us, only getting $14,100 versus the over $20,000 we've gotten in prior years, which includes funds for the fireworks. We wanted to give you an overview of exactly how much this event costs. Bouncy houses, 5 of them for the kids zone, $2,256.94. Porta potties, $2,700. Beer trailers, $2,100. Beer, $2,700. Stickers and buttons, $167. Stages, $1,400. Health permit, $233. The characters, $1,465. The bands, $2,000. Extras for fencing, water, cups, anything else we needed, $1,801.45. Liquor license, $75. Advertising, $119. Fireworks, $12,500. The event costs $29,627.06. Every year for the last 4 years, we have struggled with getting donations due to the fact that some community members take it upon themselves to talk about us as if they know what we do and who we are. We are criticized for taking money from, quote, the devil's lettuce. Marijuana is legal. Despite our own personal beliefs, we took money from a legal business to support our event. We are accused of having a Hitler mentality and that we hide behind our children. That is not the case whatsoever. One council member last year was telling community members we had plenty of money to hold this event and that we didn't need money and that our board members could take a pay cut. What pay cut? Our board, including myself, do not get paid. Also, as you can see, this event is costly. We don't have an extra $20,000 hanging out to put towards this event. This year, we were told to use our own funds and not expect the community to pay for the event. This event is for the community. A majority of the event holders in all towns and cities rely on donations to put their events on. The only difference between them and us is we have our own boost to make money to give back to our groups instead of taking those funds and putting them back towards the event. Here is the donation breakdown. Taco Bell, $250. Railhead, $100. Colfax Dental Center, $755. Karen Hammond, $500. City of Colfax, $12,500. So that was a total of $14,100. Clearly, we are short on funds. So here's what we had to do with the funds that we made from the event that normally go to our groups. The vendors, we made $3,686. We give discounts to locals and the businesses who decide to participate. The beer gardens made $7,567. Bounce houses made $1,460. That didn't even cover the cost of the beer gardens. So altogether, that was $26,813. We held our own fundraiser for 3rd of July and for bingo in June. We were hoping for community support. We made $136 with only 16 people showing up. We didn't even make enough to cover the food. Technically, we were $3,000 in the hole. We had a grant 2 years ago during COVID with some leftover funds and Green Machine funds. We were able to give the 10 groups who participated and supplied 98 volunteers $500 each. For a majority of those groups, that was after 14 hours of working, plus the day and the day after for cleanup. On top of not making enough money, there has been lack of business support, especially in the downtown area. We had several complaints from a few different businesses the day of the event and even before. We have been told this event brings in too many people. Those people come in and spend money in your businesses if you are open. If they don't spend money, it still brings in more foot traffic than you would get on an average day. We were told the bands were too loud. That's what happens when we have a live band next to you. You should embrace the fact that we are bringing people to your storefront. Those same businesses that were complaining don't contribute. Community members complaining. We had people that were here, or we had many people say there was nowhere to park. Why are you having dog races when it's hot outside? There isn't enough activity. There isn't much to do. Our answer is volunteer then. Help block off spots. We don't have the manpower to do it all. We are trying to bring more events or more to the event and have people have fun. Every year we try to bring in something more, whether it's an extra bouncy house or this year, the dog race and the special characters. Mind you, the dogs were kept cool. So let's touch on what Green Machine is. Green Machine is a nonprofit made of parents and coaches. Our mission is to support the youth, academics, and sport groups in the Colfax area. We provide an affordable way to raise money for our local groups. We hold events. Our volunteers, including our own, after expenses are paid, the rest get the proceeds. We operate with usually $5,000 in our account. Our board volunteers at each event. That way we can get minimal funds added to our account. We as in Green Machine account especially use our funds for storage fees, insurance costs, taxes, giving back at summer festival. We buy supplies and hand them to the children, and we put on the trunk or treat. We supply the candy to all of our Green Machine groups to hand out. We also paint the street and advertise and also have extra candy to give those who run out of candy the day of. We also used our own funds along with Jennifer Williams and a few other businesses to put on the 9/11 event for the Colfax River fire victims. We also participate in other events. Our groups have options to do Railroad Days and Winterfest. Mind you, they're not a huge success for us, but it's not the point. We want to show our support. We have been questioned on how we use our funds. Here's the breakdown of why we have so many funds in our account. A huge majority of that is the Colfax skate park money. This is what we spend our funds on. The Colfax skate park has used their funds use their funds for engineering plans for the skate park. Colfax Elementary School PTA use their fund to purchase sweatshirts, spring fling supplies, and activities and balls for the playground at the elementary school. Colfax High School Wrestling has used their funds for mats, swag, and new uniforms. Colfax High School Football has used their funds for sweatshirts, pizza parties, for the football teams for playoffs, swag, and coaches' gifts. Colfax High School Cheer used theirs for cheer camp, uniforms, bows, bags, and swags. Colfax Junior Falcons have used their funds partially to fund helmets, pads, and uniforms. Colfax High School Trap Shooting Team has used their funds for bullets and entry fees. Colfax High School Choir partially used their funds for their Anaheim trip to sing in Disneyland. Colfax High School Model UN, which is a debate group, partially used their funds to help to go to Rome to debate. Colfax High School Nordic Ski Team used their funds for entry fees and long distance competitions. In the past, we've had Colfax High School Baseball, who has used their funds they made with us to put a new mound in and to fix the scoreboard. Sierra Foothills Little League has used their funds in the past to sponsor kids to play ball who can't afford it. Colfax High School Girls Basketball used theirs for new practice shooting hoops. Colfax Open Gym, when we had it, they used to use their funds for balls, equipment, food for lunches, drinks, and trophies. We have all done so much, and I am proud of every member of the group. However, we are tired of the lack of support, tired of working countless hours on a community event with very little support. It saddens me with this event a lot of us grew up with. My family in particular used to dress up with the clowns, and now they run the event next to us. With that being said, we will no longer be doing the event coordinating for the 3rd of July. It's time for those that had so much to say to take over, and for those who said they can do a better job to please do. We want to thank those who all supported us through the years of this event. We will be adding 2 more events throughout the next year. We will keep doing our monthly bingo, crab feed, and the trunk or treat. Thank you for council for letting us speak.
Thank you. I think we'll take a quick break. We'll give everybody 5 minutes and we'll come back. I'll give everybody a moment to grab their seats. I think we're still waiting for one more council member and then we will get started. All right. With that, we will resume the agency reports with our nonprofits. I believe Nancy, you wanted to give a report?
I'm actually representing two entities in my capacity as vice president of the Historical Society. I'm speaking to the choir here, I think. But an issue came up with our security camera, and the sheriffs had to take it away, the whole box away. So we were without security cameras within and without the museum and the chamber and the rest of the building for, it's been a week and a half now. And there's some valuable stuff in there. And we're really hoping to get that back.
Can we rectify that tonight now that that's public knowledge? We're going to need to find something to rectify.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's discuss that after the meeting.
Yeah, the sheriff is working with us, and what I want to bring up is there is a way that box doesn't have to be taken, but I'm recommending that we look into that, and I already agreed with the sheriff's department to do that exactly, but they have there's a way that they can not take the box and access it. And so we need to look into that. So that's the reason I wanted to talk to the council today.
Okay.
Okay, so that being said, that's my vice president duties done. I'm also on the board for the cemetery district. And I noticed on the website, and I've talked to Marguerite about it as well, that there's some errors on the city's website. And so we're correcting those. But I also talked to the Indian cemetery folks, the elders. I just noticed this a couple of days ago, and I was able to talk to Clyde Prout, the Prout family, today. And we're asking that the website information on the Indian cemetery be brought down completely. We're concerned about vandalism, and there's a whole cultural situation there going on. And I don't think we need to advertise it on the internet. So those are my two items, and I'm finished, except if you have any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from council?
We might have a workaround for the DVR thing. I'll talk to
Okay.
Micah.
That sounds good. Anything from the public?
Can I answer?
Please.
Yeah. Kathy and I spoke before this meeting, and I told her that, yes, I would work and make sure that she got that DVR back as soon. I'm sorry, Nancy, before this meeting, and that I would have that DVR back to her as soon as possible. While I was sitting back there, I reached out to the detective.
Okay.
The reason we had to take that DVR is because there was no way to download the information, and it had to do with the death along the tracks. And we wanted to make sure that we captured this stuff in case it ended up not being of natural causes or whatnot. That's why we took it. So he's told me already on text that he would work on getting that form and getting that back to you tomorrow. I am not here tomorrow. I've taken the day off. I'm going to have a little family vacation. But I've also told him to please text me as soon as it gets over there so that I confirm that it's there. And if I don't hear from him tomorrow, I will be calling him tomorrow afternoon. So that is being taken care of. The part where she's talking about the camera, I've talked to several of you about the Fusus system coming up. And that is something that we're going to reach out to our partners within the community, and people are going to be allowed in a certain fashion to put those cameras onto our systems. So our deputies, while they're responding to a call, they can see things ahead of time, and we can really, truly become one with the community and work together. So all those things that Nancy has brought up, we are actively taking care of. And hopefully one of them will be solved by tomorrow afternoon. If I don't hear from it, I will be following up and taking care of that for her.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Do we have any other nonprofits here to make a report this evening? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move to our public comment section of the meeting. This is the time where we'll accept public comments for items that are not on tonight's agenda. I know that we have a healthy crowd here tonight for item 9B. This is not where we would speak about item 9B. So you can get up at this time and comment on anything you want in the world, as long as it is not about another topic that is already agendized for tonight. So would anybody like to make a public comment at this time? Diane, I know that you were queued up, so if you want to come on up, and anybody else who wants to go after Diane is more than welcome.
Hi. I'm Diane Green, and I've got a couple of things I'd like to give to the public. These posters are around town, but I have extra posters if they need them. There's a food distribution program. Auburn Interfaith Food Closet invites you to join our pilot program that will distribute bags of nutritious food in Colfax once a month from August to December, 12 to 2 o'clock at the Vista Sierra Community Center. And a reservation is encouraged, but you don't have to have a reservation. Everything is confidential. There's a whole bunch of information here. I can give you a phone number. It'll be easier. 530-885-1921. And then I've got flyers I can put there if anybody wants to take them.
Yeah, if you could leave one copy with the clerk, that would be great.
All right. And it's kind of the first Tuesday of every month until December. So there's that. And then Cat's Animal Rescue, she couldn't be here tonight, and she wanted me to let you know, so I'm going to read what she sent me. Cat's Animal Rescue and Sanctuary is a nonprofit that takes in unwanted, neglected, and abandoned animals. Also cats and dogs. We provide necessary medical needs and a beautiful farm for them to live with lots of food and love. We also are doing an anti-bullying campaign where the animals here invite the bullied kids to come and help at the farm. And so she sends out uplifting cards to the kids from the animals. And that's quite a successful program. She also very much could use donations. She works and takes care of the animals. She's pretty much by herself. She has a son that helps. And she also has someone that she takes care of in the home. So she's got a lot on her plate. So on the weekends would be best. And if anyone would like to volunteer, and the donations would really help the animals, like money, bags of feed, fruits or vegetables. And the weekend help would be like with barn chores, animal care, and fence barn repairs. So anybody that's a carpenter and stuff. I have her phone number as well. Do you want me to say it or just?
If she's comfortable with it, absolutely.
Yeah, she's comfortable with it. 209-556-2168. And yeah, she could really use the help. That's why I'm here. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Do we have anybody else for public comment this evening? All right. Anyone online?
No one online for general public comment.
Okay. All right. With that, we will go ahead and close public comment at this time and move into our council and staff reports, starting with Sean.
Right, I can keep it brief. Attended the Pioneer Energy meeting this last week. Pioneer is looking to expand to Grass Valley and Nevada City, and they're working on a public outreach campaign right now to get the word out. It's just going to be inside the city limits of Grass Valley and Nevada City at this time. They also approved additional fund for marketing to help sponsor events like our 3rd of July and things like that. Also, they gave an informational item that the CPUC is working towards imposing an income-based fixed charge for all investor-owned utilities. So basically, it'll be a tiered charge based on what your average annual income is, and it'll just be attached to your bill. Also, tomorrow night is the Placer Sierra Fire Safe Council meeting here at City Hall at 6 p.m. if anybody wants to attend. That's all I have.
Kim?
Okay, yesterday at the county commission meeting, the main focus was a presentation by Community Development Resource Agency, where a pilot program was initiated up in the Lake Tahoe area. And the goal was to encourage owners of homes and vacant building to rent to the local workforce to cut down on their commute time. They allocated $500,000 and they consider the program a big success. They got a minimum of 34 properties to go along with this program that would rent only to local workers to again, cut down on their commute. Cindy Gustafson, our District 5 supervisor, said this was one of the best programs she's seen in years. And this program has been in business now for a year. And after the cash incentive to the owners stopped, 60% of the homeowners still continued it without any incentive whatsoever. And so that's something that perhaps we could talk about later, see if we could imitate their pilot program and try to get some of our local workers to live here in the area. That's been one of my goals for years, to try to get more people living in the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Larry?
Yeah, the first one would be the WACMAC group. I attended their meeting as the liaison for Colfax. And this will let me be heard a little louder. One of the things that they talked about was that a master plan is coming down for Placer County. And this is a relatively huge process that'll take about 5 to 7 years, and it's supposed to last until 2050. So a lot of thought will go in place for what sort of growth and where it should happen in Placer County. And it's an opportunity, really. They have something called a Colfax Area Commission. And that would be different than the Colfax Master Plan, but a Colfax area. And I felt that that is a real opportunity for people in Colfax to step forward and tell the county what we would like to see here. One of the other things that I found interesting was that Placer County has a $1.2 billion budget. And we have gone from being a suburban county to a metropolitan county. But $1.2 billion is a lot of money. And I guess according to Cindy, about half of that went to policing, which was a surprise to me, I thought, but still, we have a lot of people in this county now. One other thing, the chipper program is now active. People can get their wood chipped, make a phone call, get on the list, and somebody will eventually come out and turn your wood and brush into chips that you can then use on your property. Another thing I've found interesting is the California Department of Fish and Game is funding fire mitigation down by the Bear River, where the river fire started. And they're doing it already. Crews from Placer County are actually doing it. And the comments were made that the day use of that area is increasing. And there are a lot of people taking advantage of that place where the campground used to be. And in my opinion, day use offers a far greater opportunity for our city than does a campground. A lot of traffic in and out of there. So enough said about that. Second thing, Andrea reminded me of this. I make about one Facebook post a year, and I am not legendary in any way. But the post I made this year was, I went downtown on July 4th, relatively early in the morning. And I don't know what I was expecting, but what I was not expecting was for everything to be cleaned up. And again, this was relatively early in the morning. So whoever did that, I'm sure the green machine was running it probably, and a lot of volunteers. So that was very, very impressive. And one more comment, I'm also the liaison for the Sierra Vista Center. And I feel I can state that the Sierra Vista Community Center is waking up. We've had an infusion of energy, and at least compared to me, youth on our board of directors. And a lot of ideas are coming from that. We're getting our website going again. And that is really a resource for this community that doesn't get as much use as it deserves. And that's partly the fault of the center itself and lack of probably proactive business telling people what can happen there. But look for things from the Sierra Vista Center. That's it.
All I've got is I reached out to Ty and we were getting together so he can give me an update on the skate park and some of the extra challenges they have had dropped on their plate as of recent for us to help with. So.
Perfect. All right. I have no reportable, I have no reportable items for tonight, so I will go straight to the city manager.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Just a few quick things to report on. One is we are zeroing in on a date for our council training with William Jessup University, who's doing that free of charge. So I think we're down maybe to 1 day early in the week. So we haven't finalized that day yet, but I think we're very close. And then we'll be working to put together a program for you, mainly focused on governance and the budget process and the Brown Act. But we're open to other suggestions. If you'd like us to focus on anything else, go ahead and email me and we can put together and customize the agenda for that. So, but again, that's that week of the 14th of August. It'll be a half day session, either like an all morning or all afternoon. It's been reported quite a bit in social media and other venues, but we were able to expand the hours of the splash pad from 8 a.m. till 9:30 p.m. For the rest of the summer, and our public works staff are working very hard to keep that area going and keep things clean. We will probably see a substantial increase in our water cost for that, but so there is a cost of doing that, and electricity as well. So, but certainly there's a lot of folks up there using that this summer, especially during when we had the high temperatures. We talked, earlier with the Green Machine about the July 3rd event. We did have a debriefing of staff last week. We're in the process of putting together a list of things with the event in the future, things that can be improved upon. But overall, I think it was a great event, and but there's always room for improvement in the logistics and how to distribute trash bags and other little things that would make it easier for those that participate. Just a number of small things. So on the CDBG project, we're happy to report that we're moving very quickly on putting together the design for that project, getting that project ready to go out to bid this winter. We should be completing the draft design documents next week and get those into the Department of Housing and Community Development for their concurrence, and then move into final design. So that project's moving very, very fast.
When do you think we'll break ground?
In the spring.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be next year. Yeah. We were hoping to get by winter, but it's probably, best to bid in the winter to get, hopefully a little bit better price than if we were to bid right now when everybody's busy. So it's in the end a little bit later, but I think we'll, hopefully that'll help us come in on engineer's estimate for the project. But GHD and our city engineer and some others are working very, very, very fast to get that done and get that project going. And then lastly, we received this week an early draft of our sewer rate study being done by Hansford and Associates. We're hoping to bring this to the council for a workshop in the fall. Just to be brutally honest, we're probably looking at somewhat of a rate increase. And we'll have to discuss that carefully with the council, to project forward so there is enough funding for future improvements to the and to keep the sewer plant running. So that study will start in the fall. And you'll be seeing it first in the fall, and it'll probably take a good portion of the entire fall and the first part of next year before we can complete that. Lastly, Mick and I received some information about new rules from the FPPC in regards to conducting meetings and recusal of by council members when there's a financial interest. Not that it's something that our council has had an issue with, but all city councils and all boards of supervisors are going to have to modify their agendas to have an item on their agenda to discuss this at every meeting. And Mick and I are going to work on bringing you something probably at the next meeting to work on implementing that. I'm also meeting tomorrow with all the city managers and the county CEO to see what the rest of the agencies in Placer County are doing.
So you'll give us a presentation on what this is. Could you highlight quickly what we're talking about, Mick? Or
there you go. Essentially, the new rule is if you have received a contribution of $250 or more from anybody within 12 months prior to considering a permit or license, you must recuse yourself. And that also involves if anybody who is participating in the presentation. So if you have a speaker who has contributed $250 or more to you in the previous 12 months, you have to recuse yourself. Now, that's going to be very difficult to predict. And also, you cannot receive any money of $250 or more from anybody who has participated in the matter for 12 months after the matter is ended. So it's going to
any kind of any receipt
campaign contribution. At this point, it falls under the FPPC's campaign disclosure rules.
Okay.
The language goes broader than that, but it's intended to apply to campaign contributions.
All right, that should be very hard to apply to us at all, ever.
Yeah, not an issue that we're facing, but it's something that all bodies, legislative bodies in California are going to have to do. So.
Makes sense.
And that's all I have to report.
Awesome. All right, did we have any public comments or questions on any of the reports this evening? Oh, thank you. We had a member of the public say that they're grateful that the splash pad is open later. And just a follow-up comment on that, as it starts to get dark earlier, we'll start to rein that time in. We're not looking to leave it open late at night. It's just that sunset is later right now, and that's why it's open, and it's intended to close at dusk. All right.
There's also a herd of deer that now really like that. They're up there every night drinking. So
keeping the
they like that
happy.
too. So
yeah. All right. Well, with that, we'll move to our council business, starting with item 9A. This is the creation of 2 ad hoc committees, one being the revitalization of the historic downtown district, the other being the Shady Glen Sewer Integration Project. So this would be 2 ad hoc committees And then I did put together a assignment for those as we do with all of the normal committees, and then we can discuss and see if everyone is happy with it or if they want to move things around. So did you guys want to do a quick overview of what these committees would be?
Sure. So, we have, with the advent of the study, the downtown study that's being done by Civic Well, we have a lot of activity that's going on surrounding that study, and it would be helpful to have a couple council members to vet different things regarding the outcomes of that study before they go to council. And then really any other issue that happens in downtown, it would be good to have a couple council members to kind of vet that and to get their opinion before we go to the full council. So there's just a bit of an increase in activity that staff feels it would be good to have council input on a little more regular basis.
So on that one, I had put down Kim and Larry. I thought you guys would be a great team for that. What does council think?
I'm very interested in being on that committee.
Okay.
Extremely interested.
That's the primary reason I got on the council
Okay.
is for downtown. So
Okay. So if it's okay with you, Kim, what we can do is we can go ahead and put Sean and Larry on there. Is that all right with you? Okay. All right. I know that that's a passion for you as well, and so that's why I had thought of you, but I know that you also like to spread your passions out to the other council members, so that works out really well. Perfect. So do you want to give a quick overview of the second committee?
The second ad hoc committee that we would request or your involvement in is related to the Shady Glen project, which is we received a request from the owners of Shady Glen, which is a mobile home park outside the city, to examine them utilizing our sewage treatment plant.
I don't think your mic is on.
Sorry. I'll back up. The Shady Glen sewage treatment, the Shady Glen Mobile Home Park outside of the city limits has made a request of the city for us to provide sewer service. And that's a very complicated endeavor for us to expand our sewage treatment plant. Certainly, they would have to pay for that, but there's also a benefit to the city of Colfax in being able to, potentially look at spreading our costs over a larger amount of customers and some other issues. But it's, again, a very complicated project, something that's probably going to be, expanded in time frame over the next, 3 to 5 years. And again, we need a more regular frequent council input into that process as issues arise. And it would be good to have a couple council members to be intimately familiar and be able to bounce ideas off you about when we have a direction that we need to head with that project before, again, we bring it back to a full council.
Yeah, and just for the public context on this too, there is some very, very substantial outside funding that is currently on the table for this project. And so that's part of the reason why the city is even entertaining the proposal. Otherwise, it would be, frankly, I mean, it would be as impossible as it sounds. So I just want to make sure that we're clear that there is some very large outside funding on the table to mix into this conversation. Sean, I was thinking you and I could sit on that one. What do you think? Is that something you're interested in?
I'm fine with that as long as everybody else is okay. I didn't mean to take up both committees tonight, but.
No worries. So who would be particularly interested in this topic? It is going to be, I hope you love talking about water.
I think the LAFCO experience is definitely going to be good to have you in the committee and
I appreciate it.
out.
Yeah, that is another consideration too for the public's knowledge. We would not be able to move forward with this proposal or request without considering an annexation of Shady Glen. So it would be not legal for us to consider it without an annexation of Shady Glen. So it's a very complicated topic, to say the least.
Sean, if you don't want to take on 2 activities tonight, I'm happy to do it as well. So it's up to you.
Either way, you can have it.
Well, you know what? We'll do this. We'll put Carolyn on, and if
Yeah.
Carolyn says, nope, I'm out, then we'll reassign it.
Thank you.
Perfect. So with that, I think unless staff has some more comments.
I was just going to point out that outside funding that you're talking about is from the Department of Water Resources or the California Water Board. Shady Glen has a problem with being able to treat their sewage effluent. And so the state is coming in and being a partner with that project and potentially bringing substantial resources to have them hook up to our sewage treatment plant. So
I wish they could have come in a little more clutch for us, but you know, neither here nor there at the moment. So with that being said, this is the opportunity, any public comment on this item before we go ahead and take it to a vote and officiate everything. And I'll give a moment for any online comments as well. Oh yeah, come on up.
I always say, open my big mouth.
I welcome it.
Okay, so I live there. There's a lot of people down there. If this is we're gonna have to pay a lot of money for that, and they're gonna be out because the people that own it are up in 10% every year. So these people are not gonna be able to stay there. And I wasn't aware of a huge problem. It's me personally. I'd welcome the smell to be gone, but I don't see where they have a huge problem. We haven't had a problem with this except for the smell that's around, and they can't sell a couple houses around there. But
yeah, no, the trigger really was the state water board who said that it's not acceptable and it will not be acceptable. And if they don't do something, they're going to make them do what Colfax had to do. And so that would be much, much, much worse for everybody.
okay, thank you for clarifying that. I can let them know. Okay,
So that's where we're trying to find a solution that doesn't have a repeat of history.
okay, thank you. Thanks.
yes, Madam Mayor, they've actually formally now received a notice of violation, which will require them to shut down their sewage treatment plant if they don't correct it. So
And just for context too, one last comment on this. I will not by any means stand up here and not fight to have the bill restructured for the sewer. This is the first time that the rate structure has been reopened in general since I have been on council. And my entire purpose and will for being here was get our roads in shape, get our economic interests with our businesses in shape, and get our sewer fees in shape. And so this is now our opportunity to address that subject. And in that subject, we will be talking about low income programs and things like that. So it's going to be another very complicated conversation that will have this incorporated in that. And I know that that same sentiment is shared across the entire council. This is by no means unique to me. We did get a public comment. Wonderful.
We have one comment on Facebook from Travis Berry who states Shady Glen has no problem meeting requirements. The state is making their requirements more difficult. I'll sit in it to tough project.
Well, I certainly wouldn't want to live where it smells like it does, but with all that being said, I know we have our own problems that are very significant seasonally on our own system, and we have been fined for it, especially around our lift stations. So it's a constant small town struggle that we are hopefully going to be a good neighbor on, and we're going to hope to do better for the whole system and for all the ratepayers. With that being said, let's go ahead and take it to a vote. Do I have a motion on the table?
I move to approve the ad hoc committee assignments for revitalization of the historic downtown and Shady Glen sewer integration project.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? Hearing none, motion passes. We will move to what y'all came here for, folks. Item 9B. So I'm going to go ahead and start out with a couple housekeeping items on this. We will take a brief presentation from staff, Following that brief presentation, what we're going to do is we are going to accept a 5-minute presentation from the proponents of the request for this to have been agendized. We're going to take a 5-minute presentation from the primary opponent. And then what we will do at that point is we will take 1-minute public comment from any additional people who'd like to comment on this item, share an opinion, so on and so forth. We're going to be respectful of the public's time in general and the attention span and the fact that the public has a right to hear out the entire item. So with that being said, the intent is for us to only accept a total of 30 public comments, or I should say 30 minutes worth of public comment following the presentations. So I don't think that will be an issue tonight. It looks like we have far less people than we've had in the past, but I want to make sure that we're all on the same page before we get started. So if you do hear the buzzer, I'm not going to tell you to stop mid-sentence, but I am going to ask you to very swiftly go ahead and wrap it up out of respect for everybody else. We'll keep it civil tonight and we'll keep it respectful. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to staff to do their introduction to the item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The agenda item tonight pertains to Colfax Municipal Code Chapter 5.32. That's the commercial cannabis ordinance. Staff was directed to bring a discussion of possible changes to that ordinance to tonight's meeting. So here we are. We most recently discussed this on February 23rd of this year. At that time, the question was, is our ordinance legally compliant? We engaged SCI. They did a complete review. They told us, yes, it is legally compliant. And so that's not the question tonight. That means that tonight's discussion is a policy level discussion. The question for council is, are you satisfied with the ordinance the way it is, or do you want to make changes to it? I think that's about as simple as I can put it. And we're talking about the entire ordinance. So if the council is concerned about, or the public is concerned about anything within the ordinance, this is the time to bring it up. And at the end of the night, we anticipate council will make some type of direction. Staff has identified kind of 3 general things that the council can do. One is nothing. At the end of tonight, you can say, you know what, we're satisfied with the way things are working. We're not going to change anything. Discussion is over. Second option staff identified is you can repeal the ordinance. You can tell staff, we don't want to have cannabis sales anywhere in Colfax. Repeal the ordinance, make it illegal. That's kind of the other extreme. What staff is more anticipating is the third option, which is tell us what changes you want to make to the ordinance, if any. And there are a few we've identified. One is, you have several different types of licenses that are authorized, 1 medicinal and 2 of 5 other categories. Policy question is that enough? Is it too much? Do you want to change that allocation? Second policy question, maybe, do you want to add, and this is the elephant in the room, we all know it's here. Do you want to add adult use cannabis and allow either the existing licensee to sell adult use cannabis, or open it up for some type of public bid? That's up to you. But that's another thing you can do tonight. And you can do anything within the scope of the ordinance is free, is up to you tonight to give staff direction on. The process is a little cumbersome. This is an ordinance. If we're going to amend the ordinance, we'd have to bring back an introduction and first reading, followed by a second reading and adoption. And then the ordinance becomes the changes become effective 30 days after adoption. So if we take a hypothetical, we introduce the ordinance on August 23rd. That would be for the first reading. It would be adopted then on September 13th, presumably, and then effective October 13th. It is legal under California law to keep this ordinance in effect, to make changes to it, to allow cannabis sales in Colfax. I'd be remiss if I didn't say it's still illegal under federal law. Cannabis is still a Schedule I controlled substance, and sales are illegal under federal law. That being said, the feds being the feds, they also have decided they're not going to fund prosecution in circumstances where there's a robust regulatory scheme in place. So they make it illegal but won't fund prosecution. Anyway, that's staff's presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. And other than that, it's your policy discussion.
Thank you. All right. So I think at this point, it's probably best we go straight to the public. So unless anybody on council wants to discuss before we go to the public, That's what I'd like to do. Does that sound good? All right. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and take the proponents first. We'll take the opposition second, and then we will take all additional public comment thereafter. So if GSPC would like to come to the podium, I want to be clear, anybody who comes to the podium to participate in this will not be able to make a second public comment. So each individual is entitled to 1 minute. I want to make sure that we're on the same page there and that nobody loses out on time by participating in a presentation that they didn't intend to.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thanks for listening to us once again. When we
Sorry,
opened,
one second. There you go.
when we opened 20 years ago, our only plan was to get people the safest cannabis available. At that time, no regulations were in place. We were one of the first dispensaries that tested cannabis to make sure it had no pesticides, fungicides, mold, or mildew. We still have the gas chromatograph we used to test the products with. Today, cannabis is available in retail dispensaries and street sales. Basically, those two are your options. Today, cannabis is we would like to operate the way the rest of the state does, and that is a retail cannabis dispensary that serves the community state-tested, regulated, child-proof packaged, compliant labeled products. This is the safest way to purchase cannabis. Our system is already set up for adult use sales. It has strict limits on what adult use customers can purchase. If we were to be allowed adult use, none of our products we sell would change. We would not be selling any of the products that the Sheriff's Department showed in the last meeting with brand names of products like Skittles, Nerds, Cheetos, or any of those products that contain 600 milligrams of THC. There is so much unregulated cannabis all around us with no idea of the levels of contamination. Who knows what could be in it? Nothing would really change in our day-to-day operations, except we wouldn't have to turn away any of the local residents, hotel guests, campers, seniors, veterans, moms, dads, travelers, business owners, or adults, etc. Legal and regulated cannabis is better for the community. It provides a healthy marketplace to purchase cannabis. Local and state authorities monitor the entire supply chain of legal cannabis, from when and where it is grown, through the product manufacturing and testing, and finally to the consumer. If anything else, please just give us a chance. Let us show you how well we can operate the regulated cannabis market. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the federal government is very involved in cannabis regulation. They have operatives, and if you read the federal acquisition regulations, they send out people to buy companies, run companies, send out customers to see how to run the whole system. That's happening right now. The fact that you can get a 501c exemption from the federal government for cannabis business means it's not really as illegal as you might think. It's regulated. The FDA can approve anybody to distribute and manufacture cannabis products just if you have a research and development institution. So I'd say every single university in the country almost is doing research on cannabis. Some of them are, open about it. Some of them aren't so open about it. Obviously, not everybody's here at this meeting because I think there's a lot of people that were against us because they're actually in that business. As far as the safety and access to youth, you can be 16 years old and get if you don't have an ID, you can be a caregiver for a parent, or you can be a caregiver for somebody who's under 18. So, and that's through the California Department of Public Health. So if you don't have a driver's license with a photo ID, you can use your birth certificate as under 18 to be a caregiver. caregiver, and as you know, is as easy to become a caregiver with the doctor's recommendation, and then you apply for your caregiver's license. The California allows kids to be caregivers. That's not really in the best interest of public safety, but it's a law and it's allowed. We're not a part of that. We don't have any access to patients. We're not a caregiver type thing. Our license is recreational and adult use retail. I don't think that the city has the authority to do anything but time, place, and manner. The time is set, the place is set, and the manner is whether or not I go to their house and give them the cannabis, or they drive to our store and purchase the cannabis. That's the manner that I understand. So that's all.
Thank you. And up next is law enforcement.
If I may, I have a copy of a letter signed by the district attorney.
Please.
In the effort of brevity and increase, so I'm going to give you that letter in its entirety to review later, but I'm going to quote a small portion of it in my presentation.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Burris, council members, and fellow citizens of Placer County. My name is Lieutenant Stacy Reniger, and I have proudly served with the Placer County Sheriff's Office for nearly 2 decades. Tonight, I address you to discuss an important topic that has been previously brought up and continues to be a matter of great concern for our community. The specific subject under consideration this evening is the ordinance amendment regarding marijuana dispensaries within our county. Our sheriff's office firmly maintains its stance on this issue, opposing the presence of marijuana dispensaries in Placer County. One crucial aspect of this matter that we must consider is the connection between marijuana and the dangerous practice of lacing it with fentanyl. Due to the restrictions on flavored tobacco in our state, marijuana has unfortunately become the substance of choice for lacing with fentanyl. Consequently, an increase in marijuana availability, whether through legal or illegal means, poses a higher risk of fentanyl-laced marijuana circulating within our community. Regrettably, over the last 3 years, fentanyl has contributed to at least 89 overdose deaths in our county alone. Shockingly, the total number of deaths from 2020 to 2022 has nearly doubled, indicating a distressing trend that we must address urgently. Public safety is paramount concern of ours, and we must acknowledge the emerging research on marijuana-induced psychosis and delusions. Individuals experiencing the adverse effects not only jeopardize their own safety, but also pose a threat to our community members. Furthermore, the increased availability of marijuana in our community would likely lead to greater accessibility for our children. The accidental consumption of manufactured cannabis products is a significant concern, particularly in our youth. Despite the seemingly innocuous appearance, a single pot cookie or candy bar can contain several times the recommended adult use of THC. The Sheriff's Office is not the only authority concerned about this matter. The Placer County District Attorney's Office also opposes adult use marijuana. The following is a quote on behalf of District Attorney Morgan Geyer. This office has learned that the Colfax City Council is considering changes to Colfax Municipal Code Chapter 5.32. If those revisions become law, Colfax will become the first city in Placer County to legalize the sale and license delivery of marijuana for recreational purposes, not just medical purposes. By doing so, the city would earn the dubious distinction of being the hub of marijuana sales in Placer County. Like Sheriff Wu and the Placer County Sheriff's Office, the Placer County District Attorney's Office is deeply concerned by this proposal. As legal professionals on the front line in the battle against opioid and drug addiction, we strongly oppose any amendments that would make marijuana more readily available in our area. We are writing this letter to highlight the unintended effects, practical problems, and potential life-threatening consequences that could flow from legalizing the recreational sale of marijuana in your city. The inescapable consequences in our community include increase in violent crime in and around Colfax, attracting drug-impaired drivers to the area, normalizing drug use for children in the area, and encouraging the recreational sale and use of drugs that for many years have been determined to be addictive and dangerous, end quote. While the Sheriff's Office appreciates the city's contemplation of relaxing regulations that could potentially increase tax revenue, it is essential to recognize that the pervasive increase of criminal activity impacts the entire community. In light of these significant issues, I stand before you as a representative of the Sheriff's Office, earnestly requesting each of you to consider repealing Chapter 5.32 and outlaw all cannabis sales in Colfax. Thank you for your time and attention to this crucial matter that impacts the safety and well-being of our community. Let us work together to create a safer and healthier environment for all residents of Placer County.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Officer Eric Stair. I'm with the California Highway Patrol. I've been a CHP officer for 21 years. At current, I am a drug recognition expert instructor, which just means for the past 12 years, I've gone through over 100 hours of 200 hours of intense training to teach other officers how to do drug evaluations on people who are under the influence of drugs. Before this, I was working at the DECP, which is the Drug Evaluation Classification Program for the state. We are the state coordinators for all drug training for all law enforcement officers at the headquarters in CHP. And my job there was to go around and teach the 72-hour course of it's an advanced drug class. And when I was doing that, I was traveling the state, doing field certifications and classes throughout the state where I would actually go out and we would arrest people who are actively under the influence of drugs and driving under the influence of drugs. And what we would find is I would get the opportunity. It's a 12-step program. Our number 10 step was the interview of the person. And when we would do, we'd ask the person a history of what they would be seeing, what they were doing, and how they actually got involved in drug use. And probably 80 to 90% of the people that I would talk to, they would tell me at the age of about middle school or even grade school, a older brother or uncle, sorry guys, would provide them with marijuana so they could see how what it was like. They would go on a couple of years later, they would start harder drugs. And they would end up in the position they were at then. The only thing I would like to say is if you're looking to keep drugs out of your community, it's not a good thing to bring in more. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, at this time, we'll go ahead and accept public comment from anybody else who'd like to speak on the matter. Go ahead and feel free to, I would like to take a poll of the room really quick, just so I can understand who all we have here tonight. Please raise your hand if you are here as a proponent of an ordinance change to allow adult use sales. Okay, go ahead and let's drop those hands. Raise your hand if you are here tonight in opposition. Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and just repeat really quickly. You know, if you haven't already filled out a speaker card, if you'd like to speak, you don't have to fill one out before you speak. You're welcome to fill one out after if you'd like. It's not required, but it would be very much appreciated in order to make our lovely clerk's life much easier when capturing the minutes tonight. So at this time, if you would like to come up and speak, you're welcome to make your way up to the podium. Oh, I do have some speaker cards, so let me go ahead and call off the speaker cards. I actually wasn't expecting anybody to fill these out, to be honest with you, so thank you. I do appreciate it. All right, we'll start with Jim Dion. Thank you. Come on up, Jim.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, for the opportunity to speak tonight. Excuse me. I have a question for the lieutenant, if you don't mind. If the federal government decides to take cannabis off Schedule I, would that change the opinion of the sheriff?
I would have to consult with the sheriff, yeah. So the question wasn't clearly into the microphone. I'm going to go ahead and repeat it.
Sorry.
The question was, if cannabis was to be removed as a Schedule I drug, would that change the opinion of the sheriff? And the sheriff's department's response was that they would have to actually consult with the sheriff. We'll try to not take that away from their time because I had to repeat it. CHP would like to provide a response. Please come up to the podium when you respond, though, if you don't mind.
Officer Eric Stair, California Highway Patrol, once again, to bring up with what you said. The California Highway Patrol actually tried to make an amendment to that for the state to take it off of Schedule I. We actually wanted to take it off of Schedule I and make it Schedule II. The only people that really opposed that were the marijuana community. They were the only ones that wanted to fight us to keep that from happening.
I don't know any of them.
I would love to hear more about that later. That's very interesting. Yeah.
Okay, that's just one question I have, because if it isn't Schedule I and you're still opposing it, that's a personal thought, not a legal one. So anyway, a couple of things I'd like to bring up. There are two things. One of them is on 5.32.080 is the, I mentioned before about the way to change the ordinance is possibly just to take out where it says medical or type M For instance, on 532.080C, it says each year, oh, no, I beg your pardon. It says municipal retailer, including micro business, is permitted or not permitted. But if you take medical out, then it just says retailer is permitted. And I'm sorry if I'm not making much sense. You know, things you don't off my head.
Well, thank you very much, Jim. We'll definitely take that into consideration. Yeah. Okay, the next speaker I have is Diane Green.
Okay. And you will know a while ago, get it more still with my doctors, nurses, family, and they were totally against. They were totally against it because of what they do and how it affects the brain, long studies on it, long studies. What you know, look it up. How it affects the brain and how it affects. So I think I mentioned something that in the past about the ER and how many elderly people are being in the spot and they're getting in trouble, falling and different stuff. There's a lot more people coming to the ER. A lot more. And then I worked at Jones Falk, and the kids get into their parents. And honestly, they had the car, they came to school, they could, and they had a car and just throw them off to the home. This is gonna happen. And it's a serious thing. It's a health issue and our role model.
Thank you. Andy Cave. It's getting a little windy there.
Hi, I'm Andy Cave.
I think the mic might be off.
Yep, there's the green
There we
light.
go.
Okay, so hi again. My name is Andy Cave. I'm the owner, operator of Cave's Inventive Apparel. I make brick hats, Lego compatible. Anyway, I kind of want to comment back towards what law enforcement and everybody's kind of been making a point towards. I've never seen anybody I know that has gone from marijuana use up to, let's say, heroin or fentanyl. Also with that, fentanyl has always been an issue. The fact that it's being reported more, okay, that might be true, but that's always been a problem, not just with fentanyl. It's been laced with a lot of other hallucinogenics over many, many years. Also, I would probably argue that alcohol is maybe a little more damaging than marijuana, and that is socially accepted. It's completely legal. And there's no fight from law enforcement against that in any way. Actually, you guys continue to fight against it. I'm sure you guys will agree that it's way more dangerous. So that's my time.
Okay, next I have Jacob Carlson.
Hello, and thank you, Mayor and Council, for having me tonight. I wanted to come here tonight to bring good word to the rest of the world that I'm from Nevada County, and where we're at over there, we've completely accepted cannabis. And now to this day, I must mention too, I'm the owner and founder of Revive Pure Life. We make an edible product, which is an organic vegan dark chocolate bar, and it is distributed throughout the whole state of California. Our demographic is people between 45 and 65, using our product as an organic vegan product to adjust in their medicine program has been a very vital thing for every person that has received our product. I wanted to mention that I feel like I'm going back in time here tonight because the rest of the California state that has endeavored into taking risk and trusting adults in their local area. I feel like the Dion family is the family for this job. They've been doing it. They've been risking their lives for years now. I've known them for years. They carry my product, and I very much appreciate what they do in our community. There's people that feel differently. And about the fentanyl thing, I'm so glad you guys brought that up, because without the Dion family, we would not have testing in place for any additives that are being put into the drug. This is pure cannabis. Our company has to go to a lab before it goes to their store, and it is completely inspected. I mean, down to the very nano particle. So I encourage the council to allow adults to partake in this plant. It's not a drug.
Thank you. Wendy Dion.
Hello, everyone. My name is Wendy. I'm with the Dion family from 233 Highway 174. So there's a change in my plan tonight. You guys will be shocked. I actually had planned on having 32 deliveries sent here over the course of our 3-hour meeting, which would have been like, what, one every 6 seconds? And none of them would have been medical, and none of them would have been from here. We've all heard the same shit every time. Sorry, stuff from Mick about how there's the letter of the law and there's 3 things that the council can do. And most times the council was almost there. And there was either a swing vote that said no, or there was just a chicken shit that said no. Sorry, chicken stuff that said no. Here's the thing. I'm a member of this community. I have kids here. The first thing I snuck as a child was alcohol. My dad smoked weed for all of the legal years of my life. It's not something that's, you're not going to end up getting hurt by cannabis. I can buy it right now, anywhere, and no money's coming here. The green machine just quit. Maybe there's some other money coming from somewhere else.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment speakers this evening? Come on up. And I don't have a speaker card, so if you don't mind just going ahead and for the public's sake, letting everybody know who you are and where you are from.
I'm Donna Dion, and I'm from Colfax, and my family has been running the dispensary, as everybody knows. And I'd like to point out that I fell down, and I don't use cannabis. So it's not just people falling with cannabis, but I do want to point out that we do, the testing, everybody's talked about, the legality of it and how clean it is. I had somebody come to my house the other day that said, I recently had a delivery made. And I said, why? And she said, because I really need it. And right now, the extra money that I have to put out in order to get a license or, a recommendation, she goes, I cannot do. And I said, well, where did you get the delivery from? She goes, it comes from outside of Placer County. She goes, in fact, this one came from Sacramento. So it's just something to take into consideration. Like, she doesn't know what she was getting, because I asked her, I said, has it been tested? And she said, no. And that kind of upset me. Sorry. I'm kind of passionate about this. So I think people need clean medicine. If you go to a pharmacy, you get clean tested medicine. Same thing with our dispensary. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any additional public comment this evening? So what we can do under the Brown Act is, depending on how much public comment we have here this evening, I can't allow people to come up for second public comments, but we do have the discretion to give closing comments to those that did speak previously, since we did run this in a opponent-proponent format. So no. Well, let me put it this way. If I pull you guys back up to answer questions for council, we may entertain it at that time, but we need to make sure we don't turn this into a back and forth workshop style session. If it was a workshop, that would be more than welcome. Unfortunately, that is not the format of this evening.
It's kind of odd that the sheriff's department can come and get their and then public sheriff department
Right. So Kevin did not come up during the original presentation. And you guys have 5 people from your dispensary who have had opportunity to speak as well. Yes, those are 5 separate representatives from your company.
So my question,
Right, so did CHP and the lieutenant. So I will allow anybody who's not spoken to have their opportunity to speak. Everybody in this room may come up to the podium one time and the council may pull you up again. Does that make sense? That's how we're doing it tonight. So everybody has at least one opportunity behind the podium.
I'm absolutely willing to step aside for anybody else who would like to go and have, and anybody else.
So we do have some public comment online. We'll go ahead and take you first since you're already up here, and then we'll take some public comment online. And I understand that this is a very heated, frustrating conversation, and that's why I'm engaging with some of the back and forth.
It's just. We're not about to give only a minute, 5 minutes. I've never read in any council meeting that doesn't allow them to speak for at least 10 minutes, 20 minutes for each side. So I don't know why the special agreement.
So
for us, just because it's beyond.
I would be more than happy to discuss with you after the meeting. But as it stands right now, as a point of order, I'm definitely out of line by continuing this engagement. So we'll go ahead and we'll take the public comment. We'll take these public comments. And then what we'll do from there is we'll probably end up pulling you guys back up to the podium.
Good evening. Again, I'm here. You guys have heard me over the last 3 years talk about this. My concern is this community and protecting this community. And I've heard the stats, whatever side you choose, there's going to be an opposite stat to it. But what I know is when our deputies are out there working, and I've talked to the Deons about this, I can't test somebody who's driving under the influence for being under the influence of a marijuana, like I can for being under the influence of alcohol. We oppose people drunk driving. We oppose people being intoxicated too far. Marijuana is different. I can't easily test somebody and take care of this community. We put that marijuana into people's hands and we give it more. It's going to be harder for us. Show me a device. I've told you that. Show me a device that I can test somebody just like a PAS device and make this community safe. I can't do that. I care about the kids. I've got boys myself. Bringing this marijuana, I agree. I don't even like it being delivered in here. And I've sat there and said that. There are no black vans that are delivering it on our streets. These studies with the universities, not all of them are doing it. Not all of them. You said nearly all of them. I do have friends who started with marijuana. I have a brother who started with marijuana and started to go into the heavier stuff. And we were able to drag him back. But that was tough. And it's tough out there. And if we care about this community, we stop right where we are. We don't go down the slippery slope that is America right now. We hold back and we watch. We see what's going on. The studies are changing every day. And the studies are better because of this. So let's take a break and wait. Don't make a decision tonight over something that could affect our kids and everybody else in the future.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and take our online public comments.
Okay, we have Jane Gallagher on Zoom. Jane, go ahead.
Please read my Facebook comment.
Okay, we can do that. Okay, Jane states, allow adult use. Dion has done much to learn the laws and stay within the laws. Because of taxation, retail sales are quickly decreasing, along with the opportunity for Colfax to earn income from apparently. Voters approved the last time this was on the ballot. Jane, do you have anything to add? Okay. We also have a couple other Facebook comments on here that I'll go ahead and get to. The first one is from Sean Burns, who states +1 to modifying the ordinance to allow adult use. And then we have a couple comments that I'll start the timer on. Travis Berry states, we already have medicinal sales. It takes 10 minutes to get approved for it. It's silly to override state law. that says it's legal for recreational use, get sales tax. The feds have denied jurisdiction on this. I completely agree with Nick Dion's statements. Safe consumption and a longstanding business with positive benefits. The sheriff's office will always take a stance of marijuana is bad. Never, ever, ever have I seen, witnessed, or ever experienced fentanyl mixed with marijuana. This is insanely ridiculous. Violent crime. This is untrue and obviously written by someone else. And then we also did receive several emailed comments. If you'd like a summary.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a summary of the email comments that'll be submitted into the record. The email comments were made available to made available to the council ahead of the meeting as well.
We did receive 18 emails. One was in person, so that would be down to 17 emails that were all yes to allow recreational usage. 8 mentioned increase in city tax revenue. 3 mentioned increased access to medicine. 4 mentioned safety of products. 1 mentioned environmental impact of driving further, and 3 mentioned the Dions as upstanding community members.
Wonderful. Do we have any additional comments?
Thank you. 3-1 to Blair Giano.
Take just a moment. I hear someone online starting to speak.
He was really a good hitter, great opposite hitter. Opposite field and left-handed hitter, hit a lot of balls left field. And that was his nickname. I mean, he would scald the ball, so he became known as Scaldo.
I don't know if we're watching a movie together or.
Just a good baseball guy. It really has made a nice life of the game.
I believe Jane's mic is still on from her public comment.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and take a public comment in person while we get that sorted out. Come on up. Be sure to let us know who you are and where you're from and all that fun stuff so that we have context for your comments.
My name is Deborah Frankel. I moved to Colfax about a year and a half ago. Marijuana was available in my high school in Sacramento in 1964. So the people of California had about 60 years to have wide experience with the use of this drug in many contexts. I don't think it's a good idea for children to be able to get access to marijuana or to alcohol or to tobacco. However, we have found ways to deal with alcohol and tobacco by regulation. And I think that without making the whole industry a criminal enterprise. And I don't believe there are many things that adults are allowed to do that we do not want children to do. And we don't stop adults from making choices for themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put a last call for public comment before I close public comment and bring it back to council for discussion, questions, whatever. And at that part, we may bring people up to answer questions or, address some additional comments that we want to address. Do we have anything else online that you can see, Marguerite?
We do have 2 more comments here. Okay. Christine McNabb states, come on, Colfax, this is a good upstanding business helping the community. They are testing to keep it as safe as possible, make the right decision for once. And David Cervantes states, why were my comments not made public? This was a response to law enforcement.
Did we miss a comment on there? We're going to go ahead and take a look for any comments we might have missed. I'll take a look on my device as well.
I just want to comment that I've noticed that sometimes Facebook doesn't update. So if you're commenting on Facebook, we might not be able to see your comment. We have to keep leaving the meeting and come back in to make sure it updates properly. I don't know why that's an issue for our meetings, but it has been. I've been following along on the phone. So.
Yeah, that and in addition, if you have blocked any of the administrators of the Colfax government page, we won't be able to see it necessarily. And so it does cause some problems. So If we want to be able to keep Facebook as one of our options, then we need to be really diligent about not blocking administrators.
Okay, and so David Cervantes states in additional article state marijuana laws and opioid overdose mortality was published in the National Library of Medicine, found legalizing marijuana for recreational use was associated with an additional 7% reduction in opioid overdose mortality in Colorado and 6% reduction in opioid prescriptions. And then he does have an article here listed.
Okay, maybe we could go ahead and get a copy of that for the record in our minutes.
Okay.
I just have to throw out some props here to DJ City Clerk, who is manning like 6 computers at once to try to get everybody involved. So we appreciate the diligence because it's really important to us that as many community members participate as possible in conversations like this that affect our town. So once we close these public comments, is there anybody else in the room who'd like to speak who has not had an opportunity yet? Okay. So once we wrap up here, we'll go ahead and we're going to close it. We're going to come back to council and we'll open the discussion. I think what we're going to do is we're going to give them an opportunity for them to come up and we're going to ask questions and interact. Okay. All right. Well, with that, we're going to go ahead and close public comment at this time. We're bringing it back for discussion. Anybody on council want to kick us off, get us started? No pressure.
I will. I'll kick this off. It's my understanding, but I can't confirm this, that in the years that the Deons have been in business here, that there haven't been any issues with their business, either policing or regulation or auditing. I believe there haven't been any problems. Can anyone confirm that?
I've been here probably the longest of the group. I'm not aware of any city enforcement action or nuisance complaints against them.
No, their license has been renewed every year. And Kyle Tankard, who's also with SCI, who's on the Zoom, also could confirm that their audit reports have been fine.
And then I just want to make a general comment. We've all heard of the war on drugs. The war on drugs has been going on for decades and it isn't working. And that's pretty clear. And I've always believed that that's because the accent has been on supply and not enough on demand. And I think that one of the things that can be done regarding demand is regulation. And with regulation and testing and grading so that one knows what they're getting, I realize it's more powerful these days. And auditing and yearly requirements on licensing so a bad business can't go on. It seems like regulation is one way forward toward dealing with demand. And so to me, my opinion, I support local business and I support what the Deons are doing now and I have some more comments later.
Okay. Who's next?
Oh,
yeah.
I've already said. You've already said.
I know the majority of council up here has had plenty of opportunity to share our thoughts, and I'm very happy to see you guys raising your hand to speak first.
I think I was forced into it.
You've got voluntold.
Voluntold, that's right. I think in short, we can't bury our heads in the sand. It's here, it's not going anywhere. And we can either try to super control it, or we can kind of go with the flow and see what kind of benefits there are for the community for it at the same time. But that being said, I think there are some changes we might want to make if we ever go down the cultivation route of letting those actually happen. I think there's some changes that have happened in the tracking systems and things along those lines that I found out about through a meeting I had down in Yolo County.
Do you mind elaborating on that? You did tell me you were going to have that meeting. We didn't get an opportunity to discuss it before this meeting. And whatever it is you found out of that meeting, I think would be of great significance to everybody here. Not to put you on the spot to give a presentation or anything.
No,
but-
I don't. I had to pull up the business card so I could give you the proper title. I actually met with the gentleman, his name's Mr. Tan, and his business card says he's the Department of Community Services, Environmental Health Division for the Cannabis Unit. That's what it is.
For Yolo County?
He's Yolo County, and Yolo County allows just about everything at this point. I think it was something like they have 80 something cultivation permits out there running all these areas. And while most of my conversation with him was more on the cultivation and the manufacturing side, and that's why I say parts of that I think we might want to address. They've done a lot of leaps and bounds in just the tracking of that. I mean, he gave me his detailed schedule of how often you would go into check everything to make sure you're not missing any of the maturing plants. He actually gave me his application that they use and fill out. Yolo County has been really successful because they are 100% funded by the fees from the business permits, and anything that they will go through and actually find the property owners if there's illegal grows on it. So it's fully funded. They're never having to go back to the county and ask for extra money to fund their programs. He gave me a lot of detail about specific verbiage you would want to have in there.
Okay.
In regards to the track and trace system that they use, because originally it was you just had to use a system, but the county couldn't get into the state system to see what they reported to the state. And now there is a way that you can make the track and trace system go right along with the counties. He says there's a great, wonderful program that's out there that you can buy for many thousands of dollars to track everything. He made a spreadsheet. He'll give it to you for free.
Okay.
And it will track everything that the fancy expensive program does as well.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, he's full of information. He's happy to come up and give a presentation to anybody who wants it. It's like I said, most of it was on cultivation. From what he's saying, they haven't had too many issues even going recreational with how much they have out in that neck of the woods. So go ahead.
On that note, I would be very interested if council's interested in this. If we're going to consider amendments to our ordinance related to cultivation, I'd be really interested in having us put together, I know, one more ad hoc, but I'd love to have a very quick ad hoc to try to establish what those changes could be and then bring those back in the draft. That way we can address it, because I don't want the only thing that we talk about tonight to be the adult use. If there are significant changes that would be beneficial, that we could try to get summarized and out to council for comments and, try to get through that. I think it would be better for us to include that in this conversation than ignore it, because the adult use should not be the center gem necessarily of this conversation. I mean, yes, it's very important to people, but these kinds of details are extremely important as long as we still have it in our ordinance.
I think we can kind of make an overall decision on if we want to go medicinal or recreational and still say that we need to revisit those other permits.
Yeah.
And those processes. So I think we can kind of
I agree.
separate them, but still address both at the same time. And that's kind of what I would love to do, because this guy had a ton of great information that in my reviewing the current processes that we have, they're kind of out of date at this point with what they have available to us.
I think we did the ordinance, 4 years ago at this point? We're coming up on 4 years.
5 times in 4 years.
Yeah, it's always something in Colfax.
But they are, while they go hand in hand and they both need to be discussed, I think we can still make a decision on one and say we still need to work on the other side of it as well.
Right. We can do more than one amendment if it's necessary, but we should definitely not let that.
But yeah, it was a great contact. And I'll say I got the contact through my dad. My dad worked on his house, and that's how I got the contact. So, but he was very willing to come up here and meet with anybody. It's
a very small town of you.
Well, Davis was a small town long ago and far away. So.
All right. What else we got, guys?
Well, I think this is the third or fourth time I've been through this. Every time we get a change of council, we, revisit this. So my first comment is, are we going to be doing this for the next 50 years? Every time we get 2 new people, Are we going to revisit anything, zoning, how tall can towers be?
It's the nature of having an alternated council.
Yeah. I do prefer to have the voters decide. I really don't think every couple of years we should be changing councils and changing our mind. That's my preference, to have the voters decide. The next concern I have is, the driving thing. If there was a gadget that could detect it, like alcohol breathalyzer, my opinion would change drastically. But it does bother me that we don't have that gadget. Maybe in a year or two we will. I do think, I don't smoke marijuana, but I do think that there's not really much of a difference between the two. If marijuana were legal and we were sitting here voting on alcohol, I would probably be against alcohol, because the human species is so weak and they're looking for any crutch. And I think the more excuses you give them to try to solve their problems inappropriately is not helpful. The other thing is, I am by nature a conservative person. Takes all kinds, liberal, conservative. I just happen to be conservative. When Jim Dion came in here a couple of months ago and he talked about people from Nevada City coming over here and making home delivery, I did think that was unfair to the local businessman. And I was thinking, well, Golden State should be able to make delivery medicinal. So that's my generic opening statement, just like none of us here have made any specific statements, but that's the opening statement.
You want to go, Sean?
I don't really have much more to add. The Dion's have been running a great business. It's been very successful. They've done everything that we've asked them to. And gone by the law. There is a stigma about it still, though, that some people in town would prefer that it wasn't here at all, not just medical. But I don't think they make a distinction between the medical and the recreational, the people that are against it. But anybody who's going to be running a recreational business, I think the Dion should be the best for it. Absolutely. They've proven themselves reliable and above board for operating this business. But it's a tough one.
Yeah, tough one's right. I'm going to try to keep my comments brief because I think everyone has heard me speak till they're blue in the face. So I think my biggest thing is, I'm very, very opposed to kids having an access to any of this. I've had my personal experience with raising teenagers and having to deal with the fallout of what happens when kids have access to these kinds of things too early in their life. And, I feel very strongly, like a discussion I had earlier today, that, under 25, you really have no business touching this stuff. You really don't. As an adult, if you're using things responsibly, like alcohol or marijuana, assuming that your marijuana is clean marijuana, I don't take a position of judgment. It might not be my cup of tea, but I don't take a position of judgment. The problem is that we can't trust people to act responsibly. They don't act responsibly. But that applies across the board. And part of that failure to act responsibly is on the state, because as far as I'm concerned, the state has done an absolute garbage job of regulating any of this. Yes, they may do a good job of tracking the progression from, point of seed down to, it becoming cultivated, dried, processed, and sold. But the actual regulation of who's in the business, where are they? Who are they doing business with? They opened the door with their ban on local governments having access to regulate our own territories. And I think that's despicable. I think we should have access to do that. The reality is, in my opinion, the way I look at it is when you walk into a medicinal facility, no matter how nice it is, you're not walking into a pharmacy. You are walking into a dispensary, and it is different. It is not the same thing. And getting a recommendation is the equivalent of your doctor saying, I want you to go buy some ibuprofen. It's not, you need to get a specific prescription. We're going to treat this like a narcotic. We're going to have a very clear index of who's buying how much and, you know, whether they're getting it from a legal source and are they getting on camera with a doctor and are we tracking all of that? That it's not regulated to the same level. And the fact that anybody under 21 has the ability to go online and get a medicinal card, to me, for $20 and an excuse like I don't sleep so good, to me sounds like an absolute it just sounds like a scam or a facade. It's not, to me, it's not medication at that point. It is an over-the-counter product. That is what it is. And whether you need to give a doctor say, I think you should use that over-the-counter product, that's a different thing in and of itself. It only costs $20 in 10 minutes. So not that hard to get. My biggest issue is with the combination there of the current situation where, yes, you can be 18, get yourself a prescription, you could still be in high school and you can go in and get whatever you want. The concentrations that are at a higher level due to the being classified as medical. And you could distribute that without anybody knowing. And that's a problem. I also have a huge problem with the fact that if not for our local business, the only other way to get it here is by getting a delivery from Sacramento. And Sacramento is notoriously, I don't know what you want to call their regulations, but I'm just going to say it's not my cup of tea. Yeah, I don't trust Sacramento to make our decisions for us. And that's a big part of why my current stance is that I would like to see the license changed to a more restrictive scope than what it is right now, which would be only to be able to sell to 21 plus. Because again, everybody already has the ability if they really want it. They might be poor, but you know, that's not really what stops people. So where I stand right now is I'd like to see it changed from medicinal to adult use so we can just be honest about what it is, because I don't believe it's medicine for most people. I'm not saying that there aren't people it greatly helps and benefits, but for the majority of users, I don't think it is. I could go on and on and on about my opinions, but I don't think that it's necessary. I think we should just get into any questions we have or any other comments from council.
I just want to add a little bit. I agree with what you just said. I think that why not recreational? I don't know of any reason. At the same time, I wouldn't support allowing 4 or 5 licenses or some kind of competition, but we have somebody that's been in the business and they've proven themselves. So if it actually is feasible and there are no reasons that they cannot do that, why not just a switch to recreational if that's possible? That's what I would support. It makes it honest. And the one thing that is known is who the customers are and who the suppliers are. And everything is available. We, the city, get to audit. I think the state gets to audit. So yeah, I would support at least as a test, and it only goes on a year. It has to be renewed every year. A recreational license for the business that we have.
I could tell you had some comments on deck.
Oh, granted, I've known the Dion's for a long time, friends with their family. I've watched them operate their business. The toughest thing for this is, for me, is especially if we put out a no vote, is the fact that we have no control over what comes into the city right now.
Right.
We're not watching any of these other dispensaries. We're not watching. We have no regulation of it. Anybody can call up Sacramento or Nevada City and have it come right into town. We get no tax revenue for it. We get nothing. And we have no say in what's coming in. We can't audit a shop and say, we know for a fact that this is all safe and clean and state approved.
Well, yeah. And speaking to the, if we were to terminate it all, if we were to say, no, we're done with this, we don't want to deal with it. It's that we're not doing it here. My fear in doing something like that is that it would terminate a local business that is heavily contributing in the community. It would mean that that business is now available for the market. So then you would have all of those customers that were previously served now having to be served by other means, either by driving on 174 to and from Nevada County, which increases another opportunity consequentially for potential use while driving, or it opens the opportunity for delivery drivers not from our area, many of which are not following state law and are not properly following track and trace. So I feel right now like I'm in a no-win situation. That at least that's how I'm looking at this. And our job as council is to do the best we can with the spaghetti mess we have been handed.
I agree on the no-win situation because we can't see into the future. While we can't, we also know that if we were to get in this in 2 or 3 years down the line, we stop and say, you know what, this is not going the way we thought it was going to go. We can stop it if we need to. It's not a all or nothing at this point. And while we would love to all say we could go way back in time and stop the, kind of freight train we're on, we can't do that either.
Right.
So get on it or get off it.
Yeah.
So here's the question. Do you have direction for staff or do you want to defer this to another time to direct staff? I think because we're looking for.
Yeah,
staff.
well, does anybody have questions that they want to ask at this point?
I have 2 questions, one for each side. So whichever one you want to start with.
It's up to you. If you have questions, you may pull up whoever you need to pull up and we can ask the question.
All right. Which of the DMs wants to answer a question? It's actually going to do with what one of the biggest concerns is that the sheriff has brought up, and because 3 of us all have young kids, it's going to have to do with the packaging. Go for it. So that's my question. We see pictures all over the place, and that some of these dispensaries that are bringing stuff up in here have this wonderful packaging that looks just like candy. Now, it is not my job to regulate the stupidity of adults who leave stuff out where kids can get it. I can't have anything to do with that. But is that products that you're carrying? Do you intend to carry them? How do we keep this stuff that looks like candy, in theory, out of the hands of these kids?
There's a couple senators you need to talk to because we have no control over the packaging. We have control over what we can purchase, but honestly, we'll have a package that looks very unkid friendly, and all of a sudden, the same company, the same distributors, gives us this package that looks like a 4-year-old would want to play with it. Okay, we have no control over that, so we have customers that are used to products, and the product packaging changes. The state is the one that says you're not supposed to have packages that are attractive to children. We don't package anything. So it's not really that much over, we could lose some product and deal with it that way and find some other products, but we don't package anything there. It's all prepackaged, and the state allowing the distributors to even put it online for us to purchase or them to bring it, that's a step back from us. So that's like, honestly, the tobacco and alcohol companies that are heavily involved in cannabis don't care what you or the kids do. They don't care about your safety. They don't care about anything but the bottom line, or those products wouldn't even exist. So we're not in control of what all the packaging. We can maybe change or even not have an online, menu that has a picture of a product, but we do our best not to get packages that are kid friendly. And there are some ones that have cartoons on them that you would not even imagine. It's like, I delete that email. I'm not going to start, but we have some products that they used to come in a little green and white box and they were very professional. And now that comes in a cartoon package. So we are kind of weaning those out of our inventory as much as we can, but it is,
So to summarize, you guys do at the rate that those come in, you do try to eliminate those from your inventory.
Yes.
Okay.
I had a question for CHP. You said you're drug enforcement, you do drug evaluations on traffic stops.
The ones on traffic stops are actually field. So you do the stuff in the field.
Sobriety tests.
And it's field sobriety tests. And then after you've made the arrest, you bring the person back into a controlled environment. And now you do a 12-step drug evaluation.
Right. And those, so you've been able to identify people under the influence of marijuana with those tests?
Under the influence of cannabis, yeah.
And those tests hold up admissible in court if done
Yes.
correctly? Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
That's the most, I just got to say, I just wanted to ask, because that's the most effective device right there is personal visualization, I think, for determining whether or not somebody's been under the influence.
Can you explain your training behind that and what that actually takes and how not every deputy has the ability
Yeah.
to do that? That's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, I think it would be great to elaborate on what CHP is doing as well to make that training available. I think that would also be helpful because I think it, from a perspective as council members, our job does not end with the decisions we make. We also have a responsibility for advocacy. So if there is a funding need that's not being met so that training can be available, I think everybody here has a responsibility to go write whatever senator, whatever assemblyman we need to make sure that that's in the budget. So if there is a shortfall, please let us know.
Okay, so you want me to go over the training and stuff?
Please,
Okay,
yes.
sorry,
Go-
I apologize.
I convoluted that, sorry.
So every law enforcement officer in the state of California has to go through a post-certified academy. During that post-certified academy, every law enforcement officer is required to do at least 8 hours of DUI training. And in that, they do a little bit of overview of what DUI is and some psychophysical testing, but they're not certified in anything after that. So once they go on into the field, they will do an SFST class or standardized field sobriety testing class. That is a 24-hour course, which goes over the history of DUI, and all the components on what they call the NHTSA 3, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. That's the overseer of this program. They're the ones that provide all the funding, that and the Office of Traffic Safety. So during that class, they get, it's not a certification, but they are in, they go over how to do the NHTSA 3, which are the horizontal gaze nystagmus, which looks at the eyes, the walk and turn, and the one leg stand. And then at the end of that course, they do have to take a test to show proficiency, and then they have to show that in front of an instructor that they can perform those tests adequately. After that class, there is what's called an A-RIDE class, an advanced roadside impaired driving enforcement class, which kind of bridges the gap between just alcohol and drugs. And during that 16-hour course, we go over all of their psychophysical testing for the field sobriety tests. And they start going over signs and symptoms of what somebody would see while a person's under the influence of drugs, some of the different ways of taking in the drugs, some of the tools and things to use to put drugs into your body. After that 16-hour course, if you so desire, there is a 72-hour course that's called a drug recognition expert course. In that drug recognition expert course, we go over all 7 drug categories. We go over what the drugs do inside the body. We go over how to do the 12-step program. The 12-step program is internationally recognized because there's no novel or odd scientific evaluations. All it is looking at the eyes again, taking a pulse, taking the blood pressure, body temperature, and then just interviewing the subject. We look at their eyes very intimately. I know that sounded weird. I apologize, but it's it's 3 different lighting conditions, very up close and very personal with the person.
Yep.
After that, there's 30 hours of field certification tests, where we send them to a field certification site. And at that field certification site, we have people go out and we arrest people who are under the influence of alcohol. All the arrests are done via probable cause it's whether they're driving, walking, or on a bicycle. Because in the state of California, we do have the 11550 law, which marijuana does not fall under. That's a 647F, which is public intoxication. But after that, they do have to do 6 hands-on and 6 observed evaluations. And after that, then they become certified. That is the only certification that is recognized in the DECP program, which is the Drug Evaluation Classification Program. And if after that, if you want, like myself, you can go on to become an instructor, which is another 40-hour course where you learn how to instruct officers and how to do all these courses and run the field sobriety tests and testify as an expert in court, and also work in certain what was commented about university studies. We also get to conduct university studies, which the California Highway Patrol is partnering up with the DMV right now to do another driving while under the influence of marijuana study.
Okay.
I have a quick question for
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
When I had met with this gentleman from Yolo County, he said that the CHP actually has this extensive training that is all about, with marijuana and other drugs, to be able to recognize that when you're actually in the field. And yes, it's hard. You only have a couple people trained in it by the time they get there, that kind of thing. But he also mentioned that there are state grants to send officers to your school. Do you know anything about this?
Absolutely. So, well, actually, the California Highway Patrol puts on all of those courses that I just talked about, along with the drug impairment training for educational professionals, which is a DITEP course, which we teach school nurses, administrative staff, teachers, and how to identify children who are under the influence of drugs. But all of our courses are grant provided by by National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the OTS. So everything that we provide is free of charge.
So the sheriff could take advantage of those grants to take your program.
They 100% could. And me being an instructor, I can hold any course that they would want me to hold. On top of that, the California Highway Patrol, because we are the state coordinator for all the drug impairment training, we also have our own grants. We from money funded by the cannabis taxation. We provide grants to law enforcement agencies to provide them with training so they can, if they can't get an officer off the road to go to the training, we can provide money so they can pay overtime for officers or deputies to backfill that position, and also other equipment and any other things that they might be needing.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. I have one other question. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to answer because it does have to do with your district attorney's letter. So the question has to do on, what was this, page 2? Of course, they do a lot of talk about Colorado, and it says Colorado traffic deaths increased by 29%. Being as Colorado traffic fatalities where a driver tested positive for marijuana almost doubled. So I'm curious, if there's no field test to do that, how do they know this? How did they hold up? If you may have that answer, you may not, but it's in here.
Nationally, what we try to do every single time somebody's involved in a fatal traffic collision, the driver, the person that passed away in that, what we would like to do is take a blood sample. And that blood sample, whether it's at the autopsy or whether it's at the field, and get that tested every single time that there is a fatal traffic accident that's done. In California, we are actively trying to do that also. So where all that information comes from are those tests that are done, whether by the staff at the mortuary or by doctors in the field when we actually take somebody in custody. So all that comes from those. In California, the only county that is extremely good at that is Orange County. We're trying to get other counties to get involved and be more access to have more access to that, but it is a funding that does come up into play. It's always the funding that comes into play. That and the machines. Yes, ma'am.
Can I add to that real quick? They're showing the increase in the stats, and the reason they're showing that, and you're going to see an increase in arrests as we do that stuff, is that when I'm a deputy out there and I pull over a car and I have somebody that's using marijuana and alcohol, it's very easy for me to go, hey, please blow in this pass device. You're a 0.08. I have that determination. At that point, I can illegally arrest you, take you to jail. That's easy. I go marijuana, I go down this process. I'm in a 4-hour process before I ever back to hitting the streets. And then everything gets challenged that I've done because I don't have that simple test. I have to get a blood test. The person challenges it. They want a warrant. Now I've got to go through the process. We lose a deputy from the street to 4 to 5 hours. So that now you're going to see if they ever did produce an actual test like a pass device, I would see like Colorado, you're seeing the spike. You're going to start seeing that in California. Once that happens, is you're going to start seeing, wait a minute, there's this test for marijuana. This is easy now. Cops are going to do it more. And the stats are going to change. That's what I said earlier. Yes. Stats are always changing.
Yes.
They're always changing. And that's the issue that I have.
I think if we did it right now, we would see such a drastic spike. It would make everybody sick.
Well,
I guarantee it.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And then if we're going to bring that, we've still got to go out and now we've got extra work to do on our hands to protect this community.
Yeah.
Right? That's what we're going to have to do. And if we take cops off the street, because I know how much you all like having our deputy, but we only have one to the city at those times. We lose them for 4 hours at one time, usually, right? We lose that deputy. That's a lot of time off the street for those arrests where we are right now. I'd love if I had a device here blowing this and it tells me what the legal amount, but nobody can decide what that legal amount is to be driving under the influence of marijuana. That's a number that's determined by the court, by the impairment, and it takes a lot to get there. So you're going to see stats changing over the next few years. And I know, Caroline, you and I talked about that and how, you know what do we do? It's a tough decision.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm done with questions for now.
Okay. Did we have any other questions from council? Okay. I do want to point out really quickly that I whether this is something where we add recreational, or I should say adult use, because recreational is the wrong word here. If we add adult use, if we change it to adult use, no matter what we do here today, if we make a change, I am under no delusion that there is going to be some significant pot of money that's going to show up in taxes from this. As far as I'm concerned, it's going to be so insignificant that it's not worth us bringing into the conversation. But I did want to address that because I know that a lot of people are under the impression that this is going to be a gold mine, and it is not. It is absolutely not. So when we go to make whatever policy direction we do tonight, I just want everybody to think in those terms, that there's no checkbook waiting at the end of whatever the decision is. So. Anyone want to give a direction? It's not really a motion in this sense. It's more of an open conversation.
Yeah, I would, I guess, like to know from staff, what, if anything, would change if the only thing involved was changing the type of license? Are there anything that would prevent that? Would the new terms and conditions come in that they don't have now, or is it really as simple as was stated?
I think it's as simple as changing one section in the ordinance to include adult use along with medicinal use license. And I don't, you can go through this ordinance and talk about cultivation. It's probably premature to do that. I mean, really, the only issue that at least staff anticipates is, are you going to allow adult use or are you not? And tell us one way or the other. And, our job is to carry out your policy direction.
Here's one thing I want to make very clear. If we're going to make any changes, I am under no circumstances supportive of more than one license at this time. I would be supportive of doing something on a pilot program basis, like we did when we first took our positions on council and rewrote the entire ordinance. I'm not a fan of allowing delivery because the idea of trying to regulate that, I'm just going to be very blunt. I don't think that I know how to do it better than the state has. And I think the state has done a trash job. So I don't really want to get into that realm myself. Those are my thoughts.
I guess essentially we almost have a pilot program, right? It's renewable every year.
It is.
And I don't think it takes council action to end the license. Probably does not.
To end a license?
I mean, at the end of a year, if the person doesn't comply in some way, that's it, right? Doesn't require us as a council to vote or make a change.
Staff at the staff level, staff can decline to reissue, but there's an appeal process too. So it could come that could come back before council for your ultimate decision.
Which is reason. I mean, you always want that. I don't ever want there to be a situation where that's not on the table. I think everybody knows what they want to do and no one wants to be the first one to say it. So I'm going to put mine on the table and I'm going to let anyone else modify as they please, and we'll discuss any modifications. But my direction to staff, which might be controversial among council, would be to modify the licensing type for the existing license. I do not want to reissue out for bid. For the existing license and for our ordinance, I want to change it from medicinal to adult use.
You want to add adult use?
No, I want to change
from
medicinal to adult use.
So you don't want to allow medicinal use, medicinal sale?
I'm not cool with selling to under 18, but the council has opinions. Everyone's okay to have an opinion here, but that's my position. You see, we have some hot comment. I'm going to go ahead and take the comment. Nick, do you want to come on up?
If we were to take away the medical, there are some of our patients that really need the higher dosage that comes with that. We have the 100 milligram ones, and then they're available in more quantity for medical. And there are people that have built a tolerance, and just one little gummy is not going to do it for them. So we do have the medical grade edibles for them available, and they can purchase more cannabis. That our system regulates how much a medical person would purchase and it regulates how much a adult use person can purchase. If I try to weigh up over an ounce of weed for adult use, it's going to flash on my POS system and not let me do it. As soon as I make the sell, the track and trace system implemented in our POS sends it right to the track and trace, letting them know whether it's a medical sell or an adult use sell. That's what the end result is, medical or adult. Yeah. So
That's very helpful.
losing
Thank
the
you.
medical wouldn't really help some of the people that really need that.
Okay.
Mick, I have a question. Can we write, I'm sorry, not Mick, not Nick, sorry. Can we write it that even the medical can only be 21 and over?
I think not.
Okay.
Yeah, the state law defines the class of people who can purchase medical cannabis and the conditions under which they can purchase. I don't think you could modify that. We actually had this discussion with our consultant and he agreed.
Okay, that's good to know. And that was the impression I had, so that.
And I'm not sure it would do any good anyway, because SB 1186, I think it is, says that we can't do anything to impede the delivery of medicinal cannabis into the
Right.
city. So if you made it 21 here, it would still be 18 elsewhere, and it would.
So you
it
could still
wouldn't
get on
have
your
any
phone.
beneficial effect.
Can I just clarify? It's not the business that.
Microphone.
Under the state laws, it's not the business that is the one that decides how the customer is sold to.
Okay,
It's the customer that decides whether they want to be a patient or if they want to have adult use. You can have either or, but it's not the state. The state does not dictate whether you're sick or not.
okay.
So it's just basically retail. There is an M-type retail, but it is a totally different organization. It has to do with hospitals. It has to do with nobody you'll ever see shopping because they don't get their cannabis the same way. They have
Right.
caregivers and there's a whole different M-type thing. That you don't have to pay any money for your product. And we
That's
don't have that.
Thank you.
I think if we allowed medical in the first place to be able to take that away, kind of lessens everything you did already. Because you gave it to them because you wanted these people to be able to have their medicine. And like I said, there are people, they need that higher dosage. So I think turning around and saying, no, we're just going to drop that one. You're doing a disservice to everybody that fought for it for the last 20 years.
So are you putting a different policy direction on the table? I mean, that's how this is gonna work.
Right.
You know, I put one on the table. The way it's supposed to work under Robert's Rules of Order is one person can make a motion. A modification can be made to the motion. You take your vote on the modification before you take your vote on the original motion. So. Right.
I don't have the proper verbiage like you do quite at this point in time, but I will say that my modification was be to let the one business we have them both. Have both the adult use and the medicinal.
So now we move to the conversation on Carolyn's motion, modified motion.
If that was a motion, I second it.
So. We're going down the line.
My turn. The modification I would make would be acting upon what Jim Dion requested a couple months ago, that we allow delivery of medicinal. So that would be my modification.
So I'll let Sean speak to the second modification. Unfortunately, unless there's a question from council, I can't, I'm sorry. I'll let Sean speak to Kim's. Are you support or against Kim's modification of the modification here?
I say we keep it as it is.
What, the delivery?
Yeah, the ordinance.
The ordinance as a whole, you want to leave it alone, okay? So
Decide what you want to do.
I kind of circling around here, I'm not supportive of delivery.
I'm not at this time either.
Larry?
I haven't thought that out.
Okay, so sort of an abstain. That's fine. It doesn't sound like there are 3 people in support of that modification, so I'm going to go ahead and drop that for the time being. We're going to come back to Carolyn's. It sounds like you were in support of Carolyn's. It went to Kim. Kim was not in support of Carolyn's. Instead, you wanted to see medicinal deliveries. Are you in support of Carolyn's original motion? I should say original modification? No. Sean, are you? No? Okay, circling back to me, I am in support of Carolyn's modification request. So we have 3 council members in favor of that policy direction. We will move forward with it. So that would be for the first 12 months, I would ask that we call it a pilot. I know that we still can re-up every 12 months, but I very specifically would like to call it a pilot. I want to be very clear that we're going to see how this goes, and if there are issues that the council does intend to address them. So I don't want anybody under any assumption that this is, here to stay necessarily. We're going to try it, see how it happens, and go from there.
So council's direction to staff is to come back with a modification of the ordinance that would add adult use to the existing ordinance
Correct.
and leave everything else as is.
Yes, for the time being, I'd like to do an additional policy direction. An additional policy direction that I'd like to have is for us to appoint an ad hoc committee to address the cultivation concerns. So I'd like to know who might be interested in a cultivation concerns ad hoc committee here, because this would result in a second modification to the ordinance later down the line, not part of this one.
Okay. My sense is you ought to defer that to another time. You don't need a committee at this point. I think this is something you want to do incrementally. And honestly, adding another layer to this is going to have ramifications go well beyond what we're talking about tonight. My sense is if you're going to do it in small steps.
Okay.
I think let's take through this part first and then we'll do that part next.
Yeah, and
So then I want
would
to get a
urge that,
sense.
Yolo County, I think it took almost 3 years to come up with their ordinance. So for cultivation, so that's a long.
Then let's come to an
term.
informal agreement here that either. My whole thing is I want to address it before we get a cultivation interest.
Yeah, I don't.
And based on this change tonight, we may get cultivation interest. So with that in mind, I don't want to push it off indefinitely. Let's not push it off later than January, if that's okay. That's a good 6 months. It's a little arbitrary, but I would hope that we don't push it off further than that.
Let's get this part up and done and rolling, and then if we want to go ahead and add it even before then, or if we have time for it, but I think January is a fine deadline.
Okay.
I don't want to be on the fence with this. That's not what I'm wanting to do here, but what does delivery really mean? We live in a tiny town of 2,000 people. What does it mean? Does that mean delivering anywhere you choose or only within the city? Or I don't know what that means.
Can
you hear me?
Can hear you now.
The delivery part, I'm not a big fan of delivery either, Larry, to tell you the truth. They shoot the pizza guy. I really would not want to do that. However, delivering medical for me isn't going to do it. Nobody is going to want medical delivered. They're going to call the cheaper, untested stuff from Sacramento and have them deliver it. So that's kind of the point that I wanted to make for you.
The whole delivery thing it's a business type. It's a non-storefront delivery. So if you operate your business as a delivery, you don't have customers come visit your store in person. So what you do is you don't allow delivery in your city. It's not that you don't allow us to deliver. We never wanted to. That was a whole state thing that they allowed to let other companies come in and get the market. We never thought about delivery. We never wanted to do delivery. We accepted cannabis from people who were caregivers. We sold it to people who didn't have a caregiver. We never thought of delivery. The only thing I would say is if there's a patient that needs delivery and they don't have access to a car, then I would personally want to drive it to them if that's the case. Adult use.
But having a separate license wouldn't make that worthwhile.
It's not a separate license. So a retailer that's licensed as a storefront retailer automatically can deliver. That's the law.
Well, not under our ordinance. So
under your
that's
ordinance,
what
I
we're
know,
discussing.
but the whole thing is under state law.
Right.
It's not the fact that you can stop us from delivering. You can stop the company that wants to be a delivery non-storefront company from operating in your store, in your city. It's just
Not from operating, for being licensed in your city.
Exactly. You would license a non-storefront and that could be a micro business or anybody else. But it's the way the business is ran.
So Larry, did that help answer your question at all?
It does, yes. And I also believe that what we've done tonight isn't going to change the marijuana usage in the Colfax area at all.
Well, I have a question for you, Kim. Being as the Deons are not even interested in doing delivery themselves, does that change your standpoint? I'm conservative, it's okay.
I was gonna say you have four pretty conservative people up here, so. But everyone seems to have a different definition of what conservative is, which is always interesting to me.
That's what I'm just curious. They're not even interested in doing delivery. So knowing that, does that change your opinion?
No,
Okay.
I do think it's interesting. That you two just got on the council and the ship is. After this, a couple of meetings, it's just interesting observation.
I agree, but I mean, I've spent 3 weeks doing a whole bunch of digging between videos and papers and meeting with people. So it was not a decision made before that at all, but I did my best to do my due diligence.
This is the nature of how having an alternated council works, and yeah, we don't have. Right.
By the way,
we don't have any dictatorships here. So with that, do we have any additional policy direction to staff, or are we lamenting at this point?
I think we're tapping out.
Okay, so with that, we're going to go ahead and close out item 90 if staff feels their directions are clear.
Got it clear.
We will move to good of the order, starting with Sean.
Just one thing real quick. I'd like to propose changing the name of the I just blanked out. That was weird.
Do you want to circle back?
The ISO ad hoc committee.
Okay.
To the emergency service committee, so it can encompass not just fire, but also law enforcement and medical responses and services.
So are you saying that you want that committee to incorporate not just our relationship with the insurance companies, but also our contractual obligations with the sheriff's department or other services?
And Cal Fire. I'd love to see that. So that way we're.
Can I get a reminder, who's on that committee with you, Sean?
You.
Just me and you?
Yep.
Okay.
So you're good with it. I think we could take just given more oversight, more hands-on.
I agree,
for all
because
those
I wanted
services.
us to have a committee for those things. I like the idea of incorporating them into one, so we don't have so many freaking committees.
Yeah. That's one less meeting we gotta have. We can have everybody come together.
Yeah.
So I think that needs to go on a future agenda.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
If you could, please. If you're good
And
with it.
do we have a third council member supportive of that, just to be sure? Okay.
Thank you.
So yes, that sounds good. And then at that point, when we agendize it, we'll give the opportunity for others to jump up and down and say, I really, really want to be on that. So, because we haven't met on the ISO committee in so long, I didn't even remember I was on it. So that's
on it this last meeting. Dave was on it before that.
a good point. So, okay. Did you have anything else for good of the order? Okay. Go ahead, Kim.
Railroad Days is only a month and a half away, believe it or not.
Mhm.
And I was talking to Colfax, Mr. Colfax himself, impersonator.
Okay.
And so he is, I asked him to come up and get on the end of the caboose and give a political speech. So you can look forward to that on the September 16th. Thank you.
Very cool. Larry?
I just wondered if
Oh, your microphone's not on.
if the council has a specific defined relationship with the Chamber of Commerce.
So yes and no. The way that it has historically worked is that Wes would have regular ongoing meetings with the Chamber of Commerce at least once a month. I do believe Mike has picked that up.
Yes, we're having one on Friday.
And then historically, the mayor has come and gone from those meetings as appropriate, whether it was something that did involve, policy conversation with council, or if it really was just staff level conversation and direction. I think that answers your question. So was there anything that you wanted to do with that?
Well, I intend to join and go to their meetings because I have some strong feelings about signage
Okay.
and how we do or don't direct people downtown.
Okay.
For example, I see car after car get off the freeway, looking left as everybody does at a roundabout, and see an Arco in front of them and a McDonald's over there, and they go around the roundabout and they buy their gas and maybe they buy a hamburger and then they leave town. And there's nothing that directs them the other way that's obvious. It's kind of hidden around the corner. And then coming from the other way, if you're coming down Auburn Street and looking at the roundabout, you see a big sign that says Colfax and a bunch of big arrows right below it that point to the right. And the arrows are really for the roundabout, I believe, to direct people to, I guess, the ones that don't already know that everybody's going around in a counterclockwise. Anyway, we could do better for downtown.
Well, Mike, sorry to put you on the spot. Do you think that perhaps Larry could attend that meeting with you on?
Yeah,
Friday?
absolutely. It's at, we're meeting at 5:30 over. at
If
the
you're
depot.
available.
Yeah. And I would say on the signage thing, though, it's not under the jurisdiction of the Chamber of Commerce. It's really the city. But it would be good to talk it over with the chamber. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Carolyn. I'm sorry, Larry, did you have any other items? I apologize.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
When you have your meeting with them on Friday, ask them if anybody has proposed a way to get the last two spots on the Caltrans sign coming up that has spaces for restaurants other than Taco Bell and McDonald's and Starbucks. There are still 2 holes on that sign and they're not all that expensive. I went and looked.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, on the blue sign.
Yeah, on the blue sign, there
Yeah.
are 2 holes on it for restaurants.
Actually, I'm looking into that already. So because a couple other businesses are vying for those signs, right?
Good. So I can close those 2 tabs on my computer at home that I've left up for the last week and a half to remind myself to ask you. about
Yes,
it.
we're on it.
I do know that on the summer market on Friday that the chamber is doing. First off, I had a conversation with them about sprinklers or misters or something along those lines. So they were going to see about for the kids to play. Got some extra short conversation I had. And other than that, I'm out. I got nothing. I'm tired.
Okay. I have nothing tonight. Staff, anything?
No, nothing more than what we said before.
Does the public have anything for the good of the order? Come on up. Yeah, come on up.
I believe in freedom. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel, but I came here believing in freedom. I still believe in freedom, but I also think that these are the people that we should be seriously listening to what they're saying. If they say we're the first people in Placer County to do this, and that maybe we don't want to be the first, that maybe just listen, like, because they're out there on our streets, even if it's just one guy. He's out there for us if we make that call. So just thank you, each and every one of you. And I love this town.
Thank you.
Just real quick.
Yeah.
There is one more class, I don't know if you're aware of it, where they actually have volunteers go out and they do dabs and they take bomb hits. It's called a Green Lab. That is another training that's probably pretty good, would you think? Or and not as far as the people partaking in it, but as far as the service it provides. This isn't from the order.
Thank you. So at this point, do we have anything else for the good of the order? And maybe Mick can define good of the order.
Well, this is not for general public comment. This is really for a council to talk about things that they want to put on future agenda for policy discussion.
So I think we need to, let's see here. So I think one of the things that we didn't update on here was after Tom Parnham came into a couple meetings ago and specifically asked for a public opportunity for participation on good of the order, and council agreed to that. We did not update the description of good of the order on the agenda. And I don't necessarily know how we would update the description. We might need to get creative there. But I am open to accepting final closing comments from the public. I would just say that they would stay in the same duration as public comment, if everyone's okay with that. If I'm not in violation of the Brown Act, we'll go ahead and take them. We're here to hear them. All right, come on up.
You're not in violation of the Brown. This would ordinarily be done at a public comment.
Okay.
I just wanted to say thank you also to law enforcement. I know we might not agree on the same things every time, but you guys are the ones on the streets and you do get the majority of all the experience. I just want to touch on, there's a lot of methamphetamine addicts out there, as you probably know, that I hope you guys are trying to attend meetings and stuff about those policies maybe being placed in other towns, not just this Colfax. But what I'm saying is the fight on war on drugs is here, but California is starting to let it slide with those harsher drugs. I mean, we can barely arrest them, as you guys probably know. So I think maybe we should take a little more focus on that. Yeah.
Thank you.
I gotta throw this in there. So just to throw the kudos out to our sheriff's department. They've been doing an amazing job at enforcement and patrols and doing everything they can to limit the impact of drug use in our community. And I just gotta applaud them for all the hard work.
Especially the fentanyl programs.
It's been a noticeable difference. Absolutely, 100%. So I really appreciate all the work you guys are doing.
Thank you. Donna?
I just wanted to let everybody know that at Herbal Alternatives, you have Narcan and testing kits available to anybody who wants to have their maybe. We put it on Facebook, but not everybody needs to able to take it to your page. Get that on Colfax page.
So I'll go ahead and repeat so the folks at home are able to hear. Golden State Patient Care has another business that is attached to their building called Herbal Alternatives. And if you go to Herbal Alternatives, you are able to get free fentanyl testing kits and Narcan. So if those are products that you'd like to have in your emergency kit, then you can go to Herbal Alternatives here in town and get those for free. So they have attempted to advertise it. They have not had a huge public response to their opportunity that they've made public, but it's definitely a good thing for everybody to have in their emergency supply kit, especially if you keep a first aid kit in your vehicle or on the go. Okay.
I've given out almost 200 of those Narcan kits already and test strips, and the test strips from the facility that we're partners with, they're in Auburn. If you need any treatment and you can use your Medi-Cal health insurance. If you don't have that, they have grants available. I have all the information at the store. They say 90% of the things they test with those test strips contain fentanyl. And an example, people are going to do drugs. I heard a story, a guy says he goes with his partner to San Francisco twice a year and he gets some ecstasy and he's not going to stop doing it. But he takes those fentanyl test strips and he can test anything that he's purchased, he can now test and see if there's fentanyl in it. So you can test the surface with a Q-tip. It's just as effective and like a pregnancy test is how the results come up. So those are available anytime.
Thank you.
If you feel uncomfortable coming to get them, you can get a hold of me in any way and I will bring them to you.
Thank you. And did you have a comment real quick? I saw you raise your hand. So if you don't, it's fine. If you do, it's fine.
I just wanted to say that with our business in Nevada County, that we are very much in line with the local law enforcement. The law enforcement, every year when we renew our license, they come and check our facility. And we've become friends over the years. We've become very close with the city council, the local Nevada City police officers that we work with, that they come and check our alarm, and they are our backbone. Like, we are sitting ducks at this commercial building where people from all over the state, they can look up our address, they can look up who we are and what we do just because of all of the licensing out there. And without the law enforcement on our side, protecting us like they do, willing to risk their lives for us, I feel very, very honored to work with them. I've been become, like I said, very close with all of the state officials or city officials in our local area and state officials. And I feel like it's time we work together and we share information with them. They share information with us. We work as a team, and that's how we'll keep our community safest, I think, instead of trying to have like an against thing. So I wanted to thank all of you for all the work that you do. I feel safe on the road because of you. I feel safe. And we distribute our products all over California, and there's police officers protecting us all along the way, and we depend on you. And I appreciate it, and I would do anything for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. With that, we're going to go ahead and adjourn. Thank you, everyone.